I did change the date.
Gentlemen, we shall begin very shortly. You two want to stand back there and visit? That's your business.
No, I was getting coffee.
Call the commissioner meeting of the Board of Custer County Commissioners to order. Let the record show today is December the 5th, 9:00 a.m.
And then Clint and I were here on time.
I wonder if Mr. Lynn Legree would care to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Without a comment.
Thank you, sir. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. You know, I suppose the bigger deal we make about it, people are going, well, I'm not sure.
I never thought about it till Nora brought it up, and then I thought, no, I think she's right.
From 1986 on, I told my kids, you better recite the pledge like it was written.
And it's really hard in a room full of people who, because you stand out, and I used to stand out a lot.
Yeah.
But now I was outstanding in my field.
You were outstanding, but we've always said.
Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Flowers.
Present.
Commissioner Camden.
Here.
Commissioner Prince.
Present.
Attorney Clint Smith.
Present.
And clerk to the board Kelly Camper present.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Amendments to the agenda.
I don't have anything. You gonna invent something for us?
Well, it seemed like we talked about something yesterday,
What
but
did we talk about? I don't think so.
I just look at these new business to see if we're still. If we get to it, we may delete the weed grant application. I got an email this morning. I didn't have time to really totally digest it, but I think he was pulling that grant application back. But we could still approve it, and then if he decides not to do anything, we can. So we'll leave it on for now. Okay, good. Nothing, Commissioner Prince?
No, sir.
Audience introductions.
Jackie Bubis. Summer.
Bob Jolly with the airport. Lynn Legree, airport.
Thank you. Welcome. Glad to have you guys. I don't believe we have any minutes to approve. Commissioner items from since yesterday. Commissioner Candace.
Yeah, big deal was the CenturyLink meeting that we announced yesterday, and it was a workshop basically with just the CenturyLink guys and CDOT, not DDOT. I thought it was really good. It was a very good brainstorming session. The CDOT guys had a lot to offer because they've been through a lot of thinking on things like this. There's a program in the state that this Bob Pfeiffer, who is the director for CDOT for broadband issues and new strategic developments for it. And so he was the right guy, and he came up with a cool technology that I think everybody embraced to do the midterm fix on the system. We'll talk about that when they finalize how they're going to do that, and we'll have a meeting on that. I think we thought maybe the 20th when they came back to refine that. So it was very, very fruitful, and they had CDOT brought in a couple of experts, or one, I guess. We had a visitor as well, and then CenturyLink. So I thought it went really well.
Forest Service wasn't there?
No, Forest Service didn't come, and that's okay because we now that we know what kind of technology, we know how much Forest Service involvement there would be, and that's the next step is to get those two guys in the next meeting.
Okay.
And then I did follow up with some strategic coordination on the strategic survey, and I did get a couple more comments to add to the survey. And so I'll say it again publicly, let's get on the survey. Anybody that hasn't filled it out, get on the website and do it, or we'll get it into the stores here soon on hard copy.
So these new questions went into the one that's online
Yes.
already?
Yeah. The latest one I have in my hand, but all the others did. So everything should be current on it now, except for maybe a couple revisions. If there's some duplicative ones, you won't see a change at all.
And you're going to get some hard copies around, because I can put some in my office.
Yeah, we'll put them in the office. We want to take them to the newspapers. We'll take them to the bowling alley and places like that.
Did we decide whether we can use your box?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
a place to deposit them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put your survey here or something.
yeah, I'll have to remember to send one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we'll make an announcement, when we get all the locations identified, we'll put it in the newspaper.
Good.
Well, in spite of myself, I try not to be negative. I just filled that survey out.
Still,
It's a mess.
I worked hard on it, and she argued on all the points, except she did change some of the orders and some of the questions as well. But it is, and she said, keep in mind, it is not, it's an opinion. It's not, and we'll have to see how she handles it. Because it's not a thing you're gonna take statistic measurements and say, well, 10 people wanted a brewery and 5 wanted this. It's the process of pulling together, and then use the discussion parts is where you pull out what you're looking for in
Well,
3 meetings with the Tiger team.
I was discouraged. I just finished taking it
Did
this
you?
morning. Supposedly now that is the survey. It's posted.
Right.
So I don't know that we're gonna add anything more to it,
Depends on what we see here, but there may be another question on it.
which would invalidate everybody that took the survey.
No,
prior
it
to
won't,
it.
because it's not, remember, it's an opinion, so
Well,
it's okay. I mentioned the same thing to her, Tom. And we're gonna have, from my point of view, she does have the technique, and so we're gonna have to give her the benefit of that doubt until we get into the actual structure of getting a team to execute it, so let's see how it plays out.
I mean, I figured every survey ever written was somebody's opinion. I don't get
Well,
why they're calling it, well, it's just an opinion.
tell you what I'll do, and I talked to her about this, I think we need to probably define the process a little better, how she's gonna do that publicly. Either an article or have her give a briefing here beforehand, or when we kick it off. You gotta have confidence in her, or it's, it's becomes us just doing it, we could do it ourselves.
Yeah, I'll go back and look at the original survey, but it hasn't changed
It did.
much. There's one question in there that was not in the original
Yeah,
survey.
and what she did, she combined a couple too.
So, I don't know, I took it, but,
I'll have a talk with her again.
I mean, I just asked these guys a couple questions about some of the terms used and what they mean, and nobody.
So the workforce housing one that you were asking about is on that survey.
Yeah, but anyway, I don't wanna cast a pall over it, I just don't think that the recommendations that were given to her were certainly,
But see,
they weren't included. Some of them were.
They were, and believe me, I argued with her at length on them, and I saw some of her points, and she changed some of them because of the way we discussed it. I've dealt with these kinds of things in the past, and really where the rubber meets the road is when you get a group that's going to be arguing points to discuss it in depth, and she facilitates that, and then she uses the opinions as some of the background on here's why I think, what she thinks process-wise. It has nothing to do with whether she believes that that's the way Custer County ought to go or not. It's how the team believes.
I think we ought to just let the process go. The survey's already out. When I took it, I was thinking to myself also, well, I'm not sure what, I wasn't sure, the question wasn't defined well enough for me to answer the way
Yep.
I would like to. That was an issue for me, but that doesn't mean the process isn't.
No, I'm not challenging
And
the
she,
process.
and on that point, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought it up, because what she pointed out there, that's the reason it's that way, is so that you give your thought. You can say, well, this is not the right question. Here's what I think.
See,
She likes those answers like
And I
that.
did
That's
that.
what
I
that's what it
answered
takes.
what I really wanted to answer as opposed to what the
Right,
question asked.
and her point is, then that means that's a meaningful person that gave it some thought, that had some thought with the experience behind it, as opposed to checking a box, well, this is close to what looks like a good answer.
I'm not the expert.
That was her argument.
If that's the proper way to do it, I'm fine. When I was taking it, I was thinking to myself, gosh, I don't think I'm even answering this properly.
Right.
That's okay.
Okay.
And
And that was
not
her.
every question allowed extra input.
Right.
You didn't have any choice on some of those questions.
Right, and then she
But then there
changed, but
was
if
a
you look,
place
then she
with-
asked that question later in a different way,
Right, I
to get
saw
a
that.
different, see if the opinion changed.
Right.
And that's why there's a couple questions like that.
Now, let's see
That's
what
a
happens.
technique that they use, we'll see, I mean,
Right, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I just have my opinion of the survey. I'm not questioning the whole process or
Right.
the need or
No, I
the
understand.
validity or anything else. I
And it's
just
good
don't
to
care
discuss
for
it. Oh, by the way,
survey's written.
that's another point. If you really feel strong about something being screwed up, it's wrong, and I hate this thing. You need that. She wants to hear that in the discussion. See, you need that in order to pull out
Okay.
an overwhelming opinion that gets diversity of thought going to get an answer that is a compromise, basically, but it actually gets to the heart of it better. So, you know, and it's based on everybody's background. You've got experience in taking surveys that are different than somebody else.
Sure.
So, I finally, that's why I went along with some of the changes that she didn't do. Because I'll tell you what, we had a couple of inputs that they said, I've never seen this. Are we paying somebody to write this thing? You know, that's how hard that person was on it.
But we
This
have
isn't a
to
real survey.
trust, I feel, we need to trust her expertise and her professionalism, something that, I can't speak for the rest of you, but I don't have, so
That's right.
if, you know, we hire an expert to design this, I would have written it differently, but she's the expert.
She's the expert.
So I'm letting it go with her.
And she is not looking at it from any point of view other
I
than
understand,
what that
she's not
data's
trying to
doing.
skew it
That's
one
not
way or
gonna
another,
skew
I
it.
got you.
And she's got the, you look at the experience, I mean, she's been in big cities, little cities, and companies with a lot of years of doing this. So let's trust her a little bit.
Right.
It's hard to do, because I have my bias too, you know, and
Let's see
it's
what
hard to
happens.
let her. All right, thanks, Tom, for bringing it up. Don't ever think, oh, and I know you'll always voice your opinion. That's good.
Yeah, we're gonna try to reserve the conference room down at Cliff Lanes for December the 20th at 3 o'clock for a meeting with, CDOT, Century
I'll
Link.
leave a little early, I'm sorry.
And I will not be able to be there, it turns out.
Okay. I think,
Got a dental appointment in Denver before we head to Texas.
I think Forest Service and I think all the players will be at that meeting,
Yeah.
or at least
Well,
we'll be invited
the
to
ones
it.
that are gonna be important in that decision. So we'll make sure they're invited. We're hosting the meeting, so.
And then obviously, yesterday afternoon, we had our Justice Center committee meeting, and, are moving forward with a request for a proposal for, RFP, to try to get a plan put together to move forward on our new Justice Center. So, all three of us sat in on that meeting. Other than that, that's it for me.
I think we agreed too on that, once we understand it, then we start advertising, so to speak, or educating everybody on how we're gonna proceed on that. So it's not a surprise.
Yeah, we had a little issue yesterday, that's why I kept leaving that meeting of, Kelly's office and Lori's office lost electricity. And so we searched high, finally we searched low twice, went in the basement, found a breaker box down there, but that was not the problem, so we came back up and looked some more, and then we decided to go back down and look in one room we hadn't looked in, and sure enough, there was a breaker box in there with a tripped breaker, so flipped it, reset it, and
Wonder what tripped it.
back in business. I suspect a couple of little portable
Put a lot of heaters on the same
Mm-hmm.
circuit.
And if
Because
you pay your bill
the heater
more
is
often,
not
maybe
working.
this wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I got you. Pay the rent.
So, I talked to Mike Halpin, we're gonna create a document, list all of these breaker panels and fuse panel boxes, and then, create some kind of little map, so that we know where they're at.
They're all
I
over.
bet it's just
old.
split all over the place.
Some of them are still screw-in fuses. So,
And they work different things that don't make any
Yeah.
sense.
yeah, there's,
I've seen a screw-in fuse since I took it off my well.
yeah, that's where you see a lot of them on those 240 volt
Yeah.
wells, but, those older wells, of course, there's a fuse box up in the assessor's office
Is that right?
that has nothing to do with the assessor's office. It's
Mhm.
wired to other places, so it's very bizarre. But anyway, we'll work on getting that a little more formalized. That's all I have.
And stick your finger in the fuse button.
Tried not
That's
to.
very,
Not a good plan.
Tried not to, yeah. Yes, sir?
Well, we just met yesterday, and I went to the same two meetings.
we went to everything we
You
did.
gentlemen did. The only thing I would like to just comment on is I have a small concern, it's not a major concern, with the underfunded, with the Justice Center meeting, that we need to just keep in mind that we cannot play favorites. If we cannot go to one architect and hire him for a day.
For
If
control.
we choose to do that, we need to put it out for bid for everybody. Transparency is utmost importance. I just want to, that was the only small concern I had, but I don't think that's a real issue.
I had the same one, I brought it up.
Yeah. So I think we're in good
And
shape.
I was kinda in and out, so I probably shouldn't say much. I just wondered, at face value, if we said, well, we're gonna hire a consultant for a day to come look at the landfill. Would we put that out for bids, or especially if it's under the $5,000?
There's no plan
Here's how I
on him
would
bidding
answer
on the
that.
project.
I would say to you, it's a totally different aspect because we're getting ready to hire, hopefully, getting ready to hire out of a bid process an architectural firm to do an overall study and an overall process for us. And this is a part, I anticipate this to be part of that entire process, so I don't think we should segregate that. If we went to the landfill and hired an expert who comes to us and says, here's what I recommend, and then we put that recommendation out for bid, I'd be fine with that because it's not part of an overall process that we're doing right now. So I see them very differently.
Yeah.
And it's real easy if the consultant you're hiring doesn't have a company that can bid on it, what he's consulting on. In other words, if he's just a consultant
That's
that
what
just does advice on
Right.
taxes or whatever,
Right.
and we wanted that, you can do that. He's not gonna come in and bid on doing the architectural drawings to go.
Correct. And I think the RFP that we put out for bid should include that, what was
To get-
suggested that one day
We
consultant.
did,
to
and
us.
that's exactly right, and that should have been in there anyway, because we gotta
I read it
make a
last night. I
decision.
didn't see it specifically, I think maybe we ought to add it.
Well, it's,
But I was just
they're supposed to be
concerned.
recommended.
Yeah, okay, I was just concerned about that one small item. Other than that, I think we're moving forward, and
See, that's what
I'm
most
very
developments do on anything new. You don't know what you don't know, and so you put a contract out, and then you have spot checks where you're guiding it. You're making decisions with the contractor whether, oh, I can't do that because it's too expensive.
Right.
Or I can do this because I want to do it, and I'll pay for it, I'll go find the money.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
No.
Okay. All right.
That's okay.
Attorney items?
Well, we have one thing listed here, which has to do with the proposed ordinance, but it's also down under new business, and that's where it should be handled, I think, as far as the reading, but I'd like to discuss a few things about it first. Because right now I had it numbered as ordinance number 19-01, and the expectation that there wouldn't be a final decision until next year. However, if it's read today, if you agree on the language and want to go forward with it, and if it is, the first reading is today, then it has to be published, which wouldn't occur until next Friday. But then you only have to wait 10 days for the final reading, so we could still do this at the end of the year, at the December 31 meeting, if we want to go forward with it. So I would suggest that if you are satisfied with this and want to pursue it, that we could change the number of the ordinance to 18-01 instead. And if you decide, or if you have questions, or if we want to table this for a while to get more input, we can certainly do that. I just wanted to point out we could get it done this year if everything's acceptable.
And if we do it this year, it wouldn't be 18-01, it'd be 18-18. What was the last one?
20?
Those are resolutions.
Oh, this ordinance, I'm sorry.
So this is
Yeah.
1801?
And this would be 18, there haven't been any
Yeah,
other ordinances
sorry,
this
I was
year.
confusing ordinances and,
Yeah, and an ordinance is different than a
right,
resolution.
yeah.
Resolutions are at 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're full of that.
Yeah, I saw it under your items and thought, if we do it there, fine, if we do it under new business, whatever,
So I
so.
think I don't know if Kit Shy was planning on being here or not. I notified him that it was gonna be on there. But
Must
he,
have stopped by because he dropped something off there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yesterday.
Or that was yesterday.
Although we really can't add it to new business and stay within our 24-hour.
well, it's under a new
It's on new
business
business.
already, ordinance for penalties for damage or defacing county property. So we've already got it down there as well, and that's why I was saying, I think it would be more appropriate for public comment at that time. And then, if there is a first reading, we'd go to the second reading, then there'd be more public comment at that time before a final decision is made.
Okay, so let's leave it new business and deal with it when we get there.
Okay,
Good. Thank you.
nothing else.
Okay, administrative assistant,
I have nothing.
public comment. Staff reports, aeropuerto. Welcome, gentlemen, I don't know how that works. Gentlemen,
Good morning.
good morning, how are you?
You're making a big assumption there.
Good morning.
Yeah. That's true. Didn't have any paperwork, I don't, oh yeah, we did. Capital improvement. Yep.
I sent you our capital improvement and bylaws.
You guys have been busy. By the way, while you're getting ready, Kit said the fire truck's gonna leak a little bit. Is it still dripping?
A little, but
It's not.
like it
I
was.
think probably with soaking up and probably swell up a little bit.
Yeah.
Before they do it, right? Did you get the deal cut with the air pump, pressure tank? You guys haven't talked about sharing the cost of the compressor?
No.
Forgot to ask you earlier.
In November, we sold 332.4 gallons of fuel. And right now we've got 1,385 gallons left in the tank.
How many gallons is that?
Pardon me?
How much is left?
1385. They began moving dirt yesterday. They were out there till after dark, parking their equipment. I don't know what time they got done, but they were still out there after dark last evening.
Parking it up close.
Are they looking for a plug?
No, they were just parking their equipment out
Okay.
off the parking area, south of the parking area.
They didn't talk to you about looking for some way to put a preheater on it, an electric line or anything?
No.
They're not.
I don't know where we get the electricity
You
from.
mentioned it to me, and I said, well, I'll talk to you.
They haven't talked to me about it. I was out
Run
there.
a big extension cord.
Yeah, it'd have to be a very long one. I did send you the copy of our CIP, our capital improvement program. Normally what would happen is we would come up with a capital improvement program and then we would send it to the commissioners for approval. This year, because of the timing, we just had a CIP update on 24th of October up in the Front Range, and they pushed a new version of their input form on the 24th, and then on the 5th of November we had Armstrong and CDOT down at the airport to discuss our CIP, and because it had to be submitted by the end of November, and we didn't have a chance to really come before the commissioners to present it. So this is what's in the program, but this is still notional anyway, so I thought I'd send you a copy of it just to let you know what's going on. And then on the 10th of December,
Before we move on, I'd like to ask a question about that, if I may. If you were moving on, if not, I'll wait.
no, go ahead.
Okay. Do you have your CIP with you?
Hard copy of
I
it.
just wanted to,
I got it someplace. Yeah.
think if I read my zeros right at the very bottom,
Yeah.
the construction of the new runway, the projected cost is $3 billion.
Oh, geez.
So,
Billion,
a
million.
Here, but
million,
we're just
whatever.
asking for a few
Yeah.
bucks.
I think there's some extra zeros in there, I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah.
Well, what's our share if that's all we really?
Yeah, that's right.
You
And
got
then,
crazy with the zeros.
which is a great,
I didn't actually put this.
Actually, that's like $1 trillion, I think. 3 trillion.
yeah, probably is. That's a
Trillion, billion, million.
great segue
To
on
get
the
over
local
the
match,
million.
because
Zeros.
is there a difference in dollars covered by the county? Well, let me rephrase that. What do you mean when you say a local match? Is that
That is
county?
either county or private.
Okay,
It-
So in this case, it'd be us splitting it with
Right.
BOCC.
Right.
in which case?
What they're asking for. If it's something that impacts what they wanna do, they'll split the cost with us. And so here's a match, a local match, this taxiway 3, that's the other one right behind the fence. So they wouldn't participate, they wouldn't do that, that would be ours.
Right.
You're talking about us.
What year are you in there, Bill?
No, I was looking at 023.
Okay, paved taxiway 3.
Yeah, taxiway 3's, it doesn't, they don't care about.
So local match doesn't necessarily mean
Right.
the county.
That's correct.
Okay.
Could be
It
anything.
could be private.
Because I added up the local match of $132,700 between 2019 and 2024. So 5 years, we're looking at 132,000
Right.
in local matches. Or,
So I'll give you a good one here, 2020, you know, that's a big deal, that's an automated system that costs a lot of money, $300,000. BOCC cares about that.
Yes.
And, they would split that match with us. The runway lights, they care about.
So, so I understand, like, for example, in 2020, the automatic weather system, the local match of 27,000
Right.
is something that
We
OSIX would be interested in.
They would,
have.
you know, they'd like anything we can do to make the runway safer.
Got it.
And they want, and they're putting in an approach, so they need to know what the weather is, so they're very,
No, I'm just curious when
It's a
it,
very
when you
good
say
thing.
local match, they're interested in funding half of that local match, is that right?
right.
And then,
Yeah.
Runway lighting,
Got it.
there may
Okay.
be, another one that we would
I'll make
have
sure I
to do
understood.
that they wouldn't do, but,
Yeah.
and I understand this is your plan, I mean,
Right.
obviously
Yeah,
it's not set in concrete.
Right.
and we could slip things, I mean, we can't afford to do it, we don't do it.
That's right.
Because I noticed in 2019, it was 10,000 to be covered by the county, and from there on, it was local match. So I just noticed those two different
Well,
phrases.
I wonder why.
I think that was a mistake from that local match too.
I thought that was, the 10,000 that was,
Oh, and is that the fuel?
no, that's for, the slurry on
Oh,
the current, taxiway.
Yeah,
in
that-
front of the house
that's
building.
right, that would be hard to get in that.
Right.
Well, yeah, so for next year, 2019, your plan is to expand the apron
That's correct.
and new taxiway, so, and the fuel tanks and the overlay.
Right. And just to let you know what has happened in the past, Caitlin ran,
That's right, I'm sorry, I misread that, you're right.
the,
That was, the local match is on the fuel system, meaning BOCC will share it.
this is what Caitlin had printed out,
Right.
so you can see what's
Yeah.
happened over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, she gave this at our last meeting
Yeah.
down there, didn't she?
Yeah,
Didn't
all of
change
us
anywhere.
weren't there.
That's true.
I just thought I'd
Yeah,
give you a
okay,
copy.
thank you. Yeah, so the state in CDOT's Division of Aeronautics over however many years that is, from 2000 and, or from 1992,
Right.
to 2012 have kicked in $1,468,000, right?
Well, that's total.
Total. Oh yeah, their share
That's.
was 704,000.
And local.
Yeah. Yeah, this freaks me out up here. Those are actually years.
Years,
They have
I
commas in them,
recognize
but when I first looked at that, I thought, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are years.
Those are years.
Well, I guess they all have commas in them, don't they, now that I look at it? Okay. Yeah, so the state's put in over 700,000 into that
They put
project.
a lot of money in, 704,000.
Yeah.
Yep, and they jumped on that AWAS because
Yes.
they believe we're only one of two valleys left in
In
the
the
state.
state, without AWAS.
Yep. So when Wolf Springs contributed to expanding the runway, when was that? And I was always told that was $1 million, but I don't see it in here.
Been way back when.
Late 90s, maybe early 2000.
That runway with, I think before that,
I was gonna say, I think that was earlier than that.
there's one, when they first came up, and that runway was another 1,000 feet longer when they first put it in. I think Leftwich had it or somebody did.
Oh,
It was
you're
before
talking
Redmond,
about
it was
the last
before Redmond.
Okay.
So 1993 was runway construction.
Right.
I don't know if that was the expansion, I wasn't around in 1993.
No,
That
I
would've
think
been,
that's when they built it.
That was when they
yeah.
made the dirt runway and then before they asphalted it, but that's when they first cut it
They
in.
moved it from out here east of town
Yeah.
down there. So subsequent to that is when
And-
Wolf Springs dumped the money
Right,
into it, but it's just not
Right,
reflected here.
and then before that, the reason they moved it out there, cause that runway did exist, that, I think it was Leftwich, somebody had a Learjet and they brought it in, that cut was originally longer than it is today. And then they cut the new runway on top of that, and cut it down into the hole that it's in.
But anyway, like I said, this is all just notional anyway, but, that's why it was not brought before y'all, before we input it.
It's funny, I can only use years, but they don't win.
Okay,
And
Those are years.
I also sent you a copy of our bylaws.
yes, sir.
And basically, we didn't change anything in our bylaws except the name, which is now at the airport board.
Hey, before you do that, on the last subject, I wanted to bring this up. We do need to work on probably a DOLA grant from an economic development point of view in order to help on some of the things that the state will not cover that we are doing. Like the state doesn't care about the fuel system for running. And so Lot 6 is gonna buy the fuel system, but they are looking for us to help if we can find a way of getting an expansion grant, cause that would impact the size of the tank that we could put out there. Lot 6 doesn't care if we get 12,000 gallons, you know, they just need 6 per gallon, what it really is. So, so if we can get an economic development, grant of some kind, even to defray, I don't care how big it is, that's a big deal, and that helps us show some good faith with them, because we're trying to do everything we can to help make that a partnership still. So, and there's time to do that now. I talked to, we'll have to talk with Christie or somebody, I guess, on who handles that kind of thing from an airport / economic point of view, and see what we can apply to somewhere down the line. So we need to get together and push on that little thing.
Yeah, on the 10th of December, CDOT is coming down. They're renewing or they're updating their economic impact of the airport. And they sent us that 30.
So yeah, that's right, really.
That's right. That's coming up on the 10th of December from 3 to 5.
So that'll be a good bunch of data that's needed to go forward and say,
Right.
okay,
Right.
we've done a lot on our own. We've
got a lot of individual help by donations,
And this is,
and it's beneficial to the county because here, wow.
so anyway, that's coming up, and I sent that to all the board members and copied you
Okay.
also.
Well, let's get serious about it and try to get a plan ahead. We know we have to have things in by March, so let's see what we can do before then. Get going.
That's December the 10th.
December 10th,
Yeah, what time?
3 to 5.
Yeah, and I'm hosting a meeting, at 5 o'clock, so I doubt I will be there.
What's it called? What do you call it?
Is that gonna be at the airport?
Yes,
So it's CDOT Aviation Group, same group
that's right.
at 10, on the 10th.
On the 10th at 3,
Okay.
3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. The bylaws. Like I said, the only thing that has really changed on the bylaws is the name of the airport board. And we did make a provision in there to, if it becomes necessary, or if we decide we can separate the secretary and treasurer and have those as two different people, because the last two secretary treasurers that we had said that job was too big for one person. And so we did put a provision in there to say that it can be two people.
And or, yeah.
And it's an and or instead of just secretary and treasurer.
You've had more people wanting to be on the board too, right?
Yes, we could.
I've been referring them to you.
Right. And Lynn and I are both a little bit concerned about the board. It seems like we have a lot of people who want to be on the board but don't want to do anything.
Really?
That's a very common.
Looks good on their resume, Custer County Board.
Yeah.
They apply for a job.
Even just to get into a meeting is cool.
Yeah,
Well, I see it here that you can, if you miss 2 consecutive meetings, at your discretion, you can remove someone.
I think you
I
ought
was
to
gonna
unload
ask you, I
somebody.
think you ought to put that in effect and use it as you need be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's our intent.
yeah, the problem will be without cause. I mean, they're gonna argue they had cause. Some boards I've served on, instead of
Yeah.
without cause, said without prior,
Approval.
at least prior notification to the chairman that they were going to do
Maybe
that.
that ought to be specified a little bit.
I don't know, that's up to you guys, but I did see that without cause, and that could be very
Got a
argumentative.
note from mom, you're coming.
Subject.
Well, if they had legitimate reason and we tried to coordinate with you, but we got caught in a blizzard and you guys had mercy, you can let them stay. Yeah.
So, I don't know. The other thing I wanted to ask you about that, set of bylaws in, section 2, number 1, you make reference to, as part of the duties, FBO selection. Non-airport people probably don't have a clue what FBO stands for. Your SOP, you spelled that out as standard operating procedures.
My proofreader brought that to my attention, and I said, well, everybody knows what an FBO is.
Yeah, well, I don't believe you're accurate there, sir.
Yeah, I know that.
So,
My typing skills are not what they used to be, and
yeah.
I got a little bit lazy.
So FBO stands for,
Fixed
Fixed base
base
operator.
okay, I would recommend that you put that in there in your bylaws. I mean, obviously, it's a set of bylaws for the airport board, but there's gonna be a lot of other people look at it that's not.
Wherever you have an acronym,
Airport.
just spell it out first, then you can use
Yeah.
the abbreviation from there.
Exactly, right.
Just put it.
Put in friends, fixed base operator.
Perfect.
That would be my recommendation.
My editor brought that to my
Yes,
attention. I just got lazy.
Proper way, you spell it out first, put a friend, the FBO.
Cut your pay.
Yeah, I'm assuming you sent it to us because you wanted us to look at it, so
Yes.
that's what we did. Okay?
I have a couple of comments on this. One was, and this is just very technical, but under duties of officers, section 6, which the one about secretary treasurer, says all bills and vouchers are to be submitted to the human resource finance department. Those are really two different things.
Yeah,
Should
human
just be
resources
finance
really doesn't need
department.
to be in there.
That's just, but the other thing is when we get up above to your duties, the board approved a few years ago, you're authorized to expend a certain amount of money for various things without having to come for prior. Was it $1,000 or was it less than that?
It's more than that.
300.
Well, 300 was what it was, I
I
thought.
thought you raised it.
Yeah.
Well, you raised it to, as far as I know, to whatever our budget says, as long as we don't go over the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, you had the budgets you're allocated, you presented how you're gonna spend it, and then if you do it, if you run into a jam, you're gonna have to explain more, what you need.
Well, it just wasn't clear to me, because it just sounded like you were still just in a strictly advisory capacity or making recommendations, but you are authorized to
That's
do
right.
the day-to-day
That's a good point,
operations
Right.
of the airport and with, and
To execute the
necessary
budget that
expenditure.
you've been,
Yeah, without coming for prior
Right.
approval of every expenditure, so I guess, if you can either spell that out, or as long as that's understood, that as a board, you operate within your
you ought to
budget.
spell it out.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then when you look at section 2, at the second page there, the first page actually of the document, of the board duties, I would guess you would need to address that there, huh? I mean, it
That's
goes
where-
beyond making recommendations, and I believe
what
that's your
thought.
point.
Yeah, that
Means
they're authorized.
executing the budget to operate the
With
airport.
operating within the budget and all the
And-
regular
Yeah.
operations of the
Yeah, the
airport.
execution.
And make some recommendations to the
Right.
board. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you're right, it does seem like they're only capable of making recommendations here, not
Operate.
expending
And
dollars.
that's why we changed it from advisory board to just a strict board, so they can have some autonomy in what they do here.
So the airport board shall something like manage their budget,
Manage budget.
Execute and manage,
Yeah.
operate the airport.
execute, another good word, something like
We'll
that.
put something like that in there.
All right.
Operate within the confines of their budget, that solve the whole issue.
Yep.
That we can do.
Okay. Um, Yeah, everything else looked pretty decent to me.
Okay.
So you'll come back to us
Yes.
with an updated one.
So, question I have, and it's procedural on section 3, number 3. If there is a vacancy, the board will appoint a replacement member. Should it say with approval by the BOCC? Isn't that our responsibility to approve all board members, including replacements? I don't think it's important, just get the procedure down right. And what I'm gonna tell you.
What everybody else
No, I
does.
think you're right.
Well, it says the board, do you mean the airport
Yeah, that's-
board or the board of county commissioners?
I assumed they meant the airport board there, so
Yeah, that's what I
if we would
thought.
just change that to the Board of County Commissioners, we'll appoint a replacement member
I'm fine with
from
that.
your recommendation,
Right,
Okay.
Well, approve it.
approve it, yeah.
right. Other than that, I thought it looked great. I had no issues with it.
One question I did have was a 2/3 majority, is that what you've always done?
Yes.
Got any problems with it? Is that to eliminate things happening?
No.
What number?
Because they don't show up, that's on section 9.
Section 9, amendments. If they want to amend it, they need to do majority. Which I think is appropriate.
If you've done that, you're comfortable.
2/3
Of the quorum, but then we have to go back and see what your quorum is.
Quorum is 2 guys, you're in trouble.
Which, did you have the quorum listed in here now that I think about that? I don't think so.
That's where you're at. You got guys not coming.
You need to specify what a quorum is, and I didn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's of who's there, so you need to fix that.
I mean, there's several ways you can do a quorum, that's up to you guys, but.
If it's just the quorum of the actual membership, then that sort of gives you a hammer to enforce attendance too. However you want to look at it. 'Cause it-
Some boards say the quorum is the majority of the members present at a meeting. Well, that's pretty weak.
That's pretty weak, and
Yeah, I don't.
and that gives people, so I didn't show up, so it doesn't matter.
Right, so two people could be construed as a quorum. I don't personally agree with that. I think it should be half of your members, one over half of your board, or
2/3 of the whole board. That's what you really want to
Yeah.
make them come and pay attention.
Okay, we'll get those.
Alright, 4 or more, because they have 7
Right. And then I wanted to just offer a friendly suggestion. We get documents rolling through here. If they do not, I'm on the very last page, if they do not have a printed name line, you have no idea who's signing these documents, because most people you cannot read their signatures. So I would encourage you to add a printed name and then a signature line right below it, or whatever. My esteemed colleague to the right, case in point.
Be nice to me.
Oh, I said esteemed.
You mean you can't read Jay's signature? Is that what you said?
I guess that's where I was headed.
But if this is the worst criticism today, I'm in good shape.
You're okay? You can live with that?
I can handle
So
this.
just some friendly suggestions there, sir. Okay, anything else?
Yes.
Okay?
The other thing is, in our bylaws, we've always had 3-year appointments. And the last several years, when we make appointments at the beginning of the year, it's been for 1 year.
Oh,
So we were wondering if it would be possible for you to appoint members to the board for 3 years instead of just 1.
absolutely. That's what's in your bylaws, which it is here, right?
Do that.
Is that how you see that?
You trying to stagger them?
Yeah, staggered 3-year terms.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you bring somebody as a new member, we do it on every other board we have.
I agree, but we ratify each board every year, so
And
we
we can fire somebody if they're not doing their job.
No, I don't think we do.
Just
we do.
new members.
This is why you.
Only new members.
I
We
thought
only
you
look
could
at
still
new or
bring it up.
replaced members.
Okay.
Because on tourism board, if there's a 2020 on there, we don't even consider that. Same with fair board, any of those
But
boards.
when they bring the entire slate to us, we approve
I
it.
don't think they do they? I mean, they
No.
submit them to Brenda, but I think it's only the
Just the
names,
new people.
just the new
Okay.
people.
That's right. But we
Unless
can,
you
if we
fire.
wanted to, if there was some reason, you can always review a board.
Well, we've done that.
And we've done that.
That's
So
not a problem.
that's not an automatic thing. But the automatic one is we always check the new members.
You've been asking us to submit
Right.
letters of interest every year.
Yep.
And what we're saying is, we would like to start
Okay.
in
So,
2019.
you're right, we're talking
That's
kinda,
where really I'm coming
yeah.
from.
yeah,
You articulated where my thought train wasn't, but you're right.
yeah.
Because we ask each person who wants to remain on a board to continue to, and if they don't, then what happens if we've approved you for 3 years, but you
Right.
fail to send in a letter stating you want to stay on,
Right.
we have an issue.
Can I defer to Miss Brenda for some input here? As we just did, sent out a notice to people to submit their intent to serve on a board. Well, that's not really accurate if they're on like a 3-year term and their term's not up. Would you agree?
Right. They
That
don't have
They
to
don't need to.
submit
It's
until
only
their
new
term
or
is up.
replacement members.
That's right.
Yes.
And we
Okay.
probably
Then-
didn't make that very clear, but
Then
you're.
I've been off the beaten path here then. I've always thought each person who wants to remain on the board, even if you're
You're
within your term,
recertifying is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
sends a letter saying, I'd like to stay. If that's the case, I stand corrected and I'm fine.
Yeah, and actually, I was with you in that mindset. I just never sorted those two things out on this
Yeah, it's
latest
better to
document.
clarify it.
But the notice we sent out is only for new or replacement members.
Okay.
So you're good. If you got 3-year terms, we don't need to hear anything about them until their term expires.
Or they want to resign,
Or you want
Does
to.
that make sense?
or you want them off.
That makes sense to me, except every year when we've got our letter of appointment, it says it's 1 year appointment.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's look at that.
Well, what I can do is if you want to change that to a 3-year, we'll just change it to a 3-year and
Yeah, if they're 3 years,
that's,
that's fine.
I'm fine with that.
Anyway, what we're suggesting
We'll fix
is
it.
for 2019,
Mm-hmm.
everybody that wants to be on the board will submit a letter of interest to the county commissioners, and we've got one in already for Trey. And I don't know how to pronounce Trey's last name, do you?
Costco.
Anyway. So the rest of the board will submit a letter of interest to be on the board for 2019. And if you would, make those 3-year appointments instead of the letter that I got last year was for a 1-year.
Well, go back, you want everybody to be a new 3-year, everybody's gonna be due in 3 years, and you don't wanna stagger those guys?
No, let's just go ahead and do it for 3-year.
Okay.
And what we're gonna do internally, we're going to stagger the officers on the board. So, like the chairman will be
Serve a year or whatever.
3 years and vice chair 2 years and so on and so forth. But let's start with a clean slate in 2019. So everybody that wants to be on the board will submit a letter of interest. And you guys, we're asking that y'all appoint us for 3 years instead of the 1.
Okay, well, we've got a problem with that, technically, because your bylaws say they're gonna be staggered terms. What you're proposing is not a staggered term.
Bob, don't make it harder than it is, because you guys wanna serve for 3 years, that's fine. Get somebody to volunteer to be up in a year, and if he
Yeah.
wants to rejoin, that would be the guy for the next appointment for 3 years.
Okay.
You could draw those names out of a hat.
You could do that, it doesn't matter, because they're not gonna quit. Just get them staggered now, so that we don't have to, 'cause otherwise you're gonna have the same thing in 3 years.
A couple of 1
Right,
year.
a couple 1 years, and then when they come up, you just appoint them for 3 years. And they wanna get that new term for 3 years, that's fine.
See, because if we do what you're proposing, we'll be doing
We do the same thing
exactly
in 3 years.
what is opposite in your bylaws.
Right.
So what's the point of having bylaws if we're not gonna deal with those?
Right.
Because they say staggered terms, so
Right, that's
you
easy.
need to present us a membership list that have staggered terms
Right.
on them already.
Then we're, and
Okay, why don't we send you one list.
one list with the staggered
With
bunch of guys.
everybody that wants to be on the board,
Yep.
and we'll stagger them.
Say, all right, Bob's gonna be up next year, you'll
Yeah.
come due, and we'll appoint you for 3 more years.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Bob.
yeah. They need to be staggered when they come to us for
Yeah.
a vote.
Right,
And we'll submit one list.
Right.
right.
Perfect.
So we're basically starting over with. the
Right.
But we're
airport board.
recertifying, okay, this guy's a year, this guy's 2, this guy's 3.
And then from then on, only people whose term expire would need to submit a letter of
Right,
interest.
that works.
Okay.
Okay.
I had a question, I thought Brian Anderson was one, didn't he ever get a hold of you?
Yes, he did.
He doesn't wanna join?
Yes, he does. But as far as I know, we haven't got a letter of interest from him.
Okay, bug him. Because he won't, he thinks he did that already by talking to you probably.
Okay. We will put his name on our list that we send you for 2019.
Okay.
We'll put him in there for
Whatever,
many years.
3 years,
Yeah, the notice.
or whatever you decide.
That Brenda sent out was, that the BOCC at their January meeting will be making appointments to various county boards. The BOCC will be accepting letters of interest from the following groups, so.
So just give us the name,
Probably
the
should have
terms,
said
and a
no
letter.
members.
That's right.
Okay, good.
But anyway, we're gonna start over again in 2019. We'll submit one list of these guys.
Mhm. And their terms,
or
length
women.
of terms.
Here's what their
Yeah.
terms
For
are.
their terms.
Okay.
And a maximum of 7, correct?
That's correct.
You think you can get them all to sign off on that individually?
I doubt it, because we're right now having a hard time getting every board member to come to every meeting.
And I would draw their names out of a hat and assign it to them. and
Just
say,
sign it,
"One
you're on a
year,
1 year
you're
term."
1 year or 2 year or whatever. Again,
That's what we're gonna do.
it's If they want, and you want them on there, it's a moot point because you can reappoint them when that term expires, as Commissioner Canada was saying, so. Okay, good. Very good. What else, sir?
Next time, bring donuts with you.
Yeah, you bring the donuts, we're easier to get along.
Where's the gavel?
You're as critical of bylaws as we have donuts to eat.
Oh, the other thing that we wanted to know was, about at the end of this year, money that is not spent. What happens to that money? Because it was unclear to some of the board members exactly what happens to the money if we have money left in our budget.
Goes back in the general fund.
Rolls into the general fund and you're only given what your budget was.
Right, is that including or excluding fuel?
In what way?
I think.
What
I don't
we
think
have
there's
left
any-
in our fuel budget, does that stay in our budget?
Carry over, I don't believe so, no.
Because the concern we have is if we gotta buy fuel in February and we don't have any money to go buy fuel in
Why
February,
wouldn't you? You have a new budget.
that's what I'm wondering,
Yes,
is
no, your new budget should cover that.
our new budget
Sure,
is,
you've projected it out.
right,
That's why it's
whatever,
important to come each month, understanding where you stand and how much money you're able to buy fuel with into the end.
okay. So if we got 20,000 budgeted for 2019, and we need to buy fuel January 2nd,
Should be good to go.
Sure.
we're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, there's one thing that I just thought of, and it's a good point. Remember, it's a fuel pays for itself now, right? So, that money isn't county money that we put into the fund. It's money that you've earned, so that it truly is your money.
But it's still budget, it's still
It's
budget.
it's still budgeted, though. That's what I mean. It rolls into it next year, into that line. It should still be there.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
Yeah. That.
yeah, it
Right.
may be a Donna question, I didn't think it rolled over, but.
No, I mean, your budget is your budget, it starts over and
Right,
on January
that's right, your budget
1st,
is your
and
budget,
if
we
you-
know the fuel is self-sustaining, it's buying
we've
itself,
got money in there
that you earned,
that has been paid.
that's right, it's already,
So is that
Shouldn't be.
there or,
yes,
okay, so,
It's not in addition to whatever you budgeted for 2019.
Yeah, let's say you had
It's part of what you
$4,000 left
budgeted
at
for
the end of this
2019.
year that you had not spent on fuel.
right,
Again, this is probably a Donna thing, my understanding is that would not carry an ad on top of your 2019 fuel
That's
budget.
right.
It would not.
So, and here's the problem. So people knowing that say, well, by God, it doesn't take a rocket science, I'm gonna go spend that $4,000 on fuel. Okay,
In December.
because I'm afraid I won't get what I
No, you'll
wanted
get
in the
it.
next year. This administration feels like if you are managing your money and you have money left over, that goes back into general fund, that is for the health of this county. We're not
Right.
gonna punish you by saying, well, you didn't spend all your
Right.
money last year, so you're not getting that
Right.
much money
Right.
this
and
year.
that's what the
right.
military used to
Right.
do.
Well,
They said,
well, all the time, you spent, use it or lose it.
That's right.
Government is
And if you didn't
useless.
spend it all, it means you got less next year, because you can only spend
Right.
that
We
much.
don't do
Right.
that.
But I think we're safe in saying
Yeah.
today, that's
We did
not
not
our
budget that
position.
way at all.
Especially when this is a profit organization, you guys are making money
Yeah.
to do it.
But January 1st, the money that's budgeted for fuel can be used for fuel,
Right.
regardless of what's there last year or
We're,
this year.
we're good with that.
So-
And then, so you gotta keep track of your profit, cause you could take that out and go rent a car or whatever if it's in addition to what you thought you had budgeted, see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You're,
I think we're in good shape. So that,
Yeah,
just
if you
wanted to
don't-
make sure what all those things meant.
As I understand it, if you don't expend it, it goes back into the general
into
fund. That was your original question.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of other things that wrap around that.
but your new budget immediately starts, you can buy your fuel.
Cool,
Good.
we're good.
All right, anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Perfect, thank you. Thanks
That
for
was
coming
longer
in.
than I thought it was gonna
Yeah,
be.
that's all right.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Mark down apple fritters at the bottom of it.
I'll have to
I prefer
remember that.
salmon.
We'll see if you
Yeah,
write it
Dave.
down.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bet.
Hey Lynn, nice suspenders and
Office of
cuffs.
Emergency
No, I
Management.
thought so
ready
too,
for
Lynn.
Christmas.
Looking good.
How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Morning, Bill.
Nice to see you.
I suppose if the airport opened down.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Well, it is.
So, let's see, did we get
So, you wouldn't have thought.
Ian's report?
We'll talk some more about that.
Well, I've been confused all along too, but that's okay.
He's just walking out confused. That's, you can tell by one cuff's
So
lower
what's up?
than the other.
So, we got the reimbursement for the spring fire, that got deposited. Meredith also got reimbursed, because she didn't go through payroll. Spent down some of the Homeland Security money, spent all of the CERT money but 30 cents, so we can close out that 2016 grant. I've gotta get VIPS and MRC to spend a little bit of more of theirs, but at least that's some of that on this year's budget, because we didn't really budget anything for it next year, but it doesn't get reimbursed, but doesn't get expended, so.
VIP stands for,
Volunteers in Police Services, so
Right.
that's our posse. I think what we're gonna do on that one is do a grant change towards the radio project. The coroner got $3,000 on a mini grant for radio for 19, and so Shannon's sort of working on quotes and trying to get everybody on board to a single radio purchase, so.
So sorta is he doing it? You said
He's
sorta doing
working
it?
with Walt. Walt gave him some pricing based on volume. I believe he's
He
still
thinks
on
he's
it.
gonna go do that with it.
He left he got a vacation at Thanksgiving, so we
Yeah.
haven't caught up since
Oh, okay.
then. But before Thanksgiving, he was working with Walt at Digicom and had the best pricing.
That's what I thought.
And, yeah, and I know he's going after that, what's that, a JAG grant, the Judicial Assistance Grant, and I think that's February, so I think he's hoping to score some money for law enforcement radios with that grant. But the last I heard, we were looking at, I think we had to have at least 16 radios on the purchase order to get some decent pricing, and then the end
that was what it was.
the end that I'm working on is trying to get Barry Mitchell to bring the trailer back up and do reprogramming on site for like 3-4 days, whatever it takes, where we would bring in all the vehicles and all the handhelds, but that way we can use the SAR building and be pulling in cruisers and bringing over fire trucks. And we need to do the tuning and reprogramming part, and the tuning's been since June of 2015, and they really should be tuned every couple of years, so they'll start drifting. So we're trying to coordinate all that for spring of 19. But yeah, so that posse money, I think that's where that'll go, and maybe some of the rest of the MRC money. And then I went to the RETAC meeting, and Tom had signed a couple of grant applications, so EMS got some more. That there was $15,000, but EMS got a little bit towards their medical director, SAR got a little bit towards their medical director, and then Dispatch got some of that money towards their EMD program, so for the dispatch. So that 15 is all spent, and I may reach out to Chuck to just get a little bit more history on how that RETAC funding goes, since it's, essentially counting funding. It's not necessarily all to EMS.
I've got a question, it's probably an ignorant question.
Yeah.
My mind has wandered some since we took action this summer about the spring fire. You got paid from the county for that. This money went back into general fund, this spring fire reimbursement.
That reimbursed every.
That was $3,200.
Yeah. So that was, it reimbursed the burdened rate.
Right.
So for the
For the
benefits
difference.
and everything, yeah. So the county got reimbursed, for the straight hours too, so.
Yeah, there was
That
a little
like
bit of
6
concern
days, yeah. There
why we
was.
were paying you overtime, and we said we were gonna get reimbursed for that. That is that reimbursement.
That's that reimbursement. And then Meredith, her hours, when she was part-time, didn't bill to the county
Right.
at all.
Right.
So her reimbursement went directly to her.
To her.
Yeah. So that was good to see it in this calendar year. There won't have to be any
squirrely.
adjustments. And then I'm, one of my grant deliverables is a finance plan, and and so I'm gonna give that off to Meredith this week. I've been working on it, and then she's gonna take a stab at proofing it and cleaning it up, and then that transition policy draft, which, I don't know if that's ever anything that you would do or not, but they kind of tie hand in hand because you have to understand the finance piece, which is, I've spent 3 years learning and probably still only know a little bit. But that's, it's the do's and don'ts of why we need to consider those things for reimbursements, especially if it's our emergency, how we're going to do that. So yeah, trying to finish those up for the year. I've got the two things I had told Brenda on my email I wanted to tell you about were the EMPG grant for, it's the Emergency Management Performance Grant. Working on that draft for 2019. It's has to be signed by the end of January, and the chairman of the board will sign that plan. So I did 2 different finance staffing patterns, one with Meredith in there for a portion, and then one without her, just to see if I thought we were going to be okay either way, because as we cut the budget, the state could cut back on us too, and so my concern is that we don't lose anything. They're telling us to plan on keeping the same we got, which was the $36,000 grant funding. So I just want to make sure we don't cut ourselves too short. I think we're good either way. I'll probably put her in the staffing pattern, and then expect that to phase down the next year. And then the other part that I have not drafted yet, that Meredith and I have discussed what we're going to work on, is the performance part, the work plan, and that hasn't changed. It's 75% is still basically resource mobilization, web EOC, the stakeholder meetings, the training and exercise. We're still working on what we're going to do there, and then our training and exercise plan. We have to participate in 3 exercises, so we're planning a wildfire evacuation exercise, and we're planning it for the fall because we know it's unrealistic to have it done. If we have an actual event, then that can count as our exercise. But I think we're talking about reaching out to Corona Verde, and they've had an exercise before, but because they're actively involved in developing a CWPP and evacuation routes, we're thinking they may still be a good one to go back and do that area. But we could certainly look at somewhere else. The other thought would be maybe do something more up at the hillside area, because then we could involve the new Fremont County Emergency Manager, and it would count for both programs to kind of do something together. So I'll talk to Kit and the fire department and see if they have any input there. But our exercise, we have to exercise like alert and notifications, one part that we want to do, because we brought in the IPOS and we need to develop those standard operating agreements there. So just the whole reverse notification and IPOS and social media, and then activating the EOC. So
you ever work with Rye and San Isabel?
Beulah Fire's a good one to work with, Brian, and Rye, Steve Bennett's. I haven't done a lot with them, but that's another great area.
We had almost a fire, but we didn't.
And that's one of the biggest areas of concern is down there, because our big bad fire is gonna end up back in Pueblo County again, and yeah, so that's a good note. I think Brian Ware, Chief Ware, is coming to the MOP meeting tomorrow, and there's some talk about developing wildfire protection plans down there. I know one of the communities in Custer County wants a plan, and we're trying to figure out how to collaborate on some of that.
Guys, I'd be worrying.
Yeah, I think Rye, Beulah, and Lake San Isabel were out of the CMAP study. Those were the 3 biggest concerns, and then from the group, the regional group, and then I add on Corona Verde and Adobe and some of those as my concerns. But yeah, that's a good idea. We could potentially do one down there. I know we did one in Beulah 5 years ago or so. Christy Coleman worked on that. But yeah, that might be a good place to figure out something. So anyway, I'll finish that up and then the elective options on that. And the only other thing that I had to ask you about, so that, I'll need to sign that in January. I'll have it drafted in 2 years, so we'll get that done. And then, I think maybe Teresa Springer gave you a call, Tom?
She did.
Okay. So that post-fire grant is still out there with FEMA. They're extending the deadline. The state of Colorado reached out to FEMA. The letter was supposed to go out yesterday. We think the deadline is going to be extended into March or April. It's post-fire, so you can do some green mitigation, but there's not as much money. And so Teresa Springer with COCO, their group, has a private entity, a foundation, who wants to try to do a demonstration project on reforestation. And so it would probably be down at Billington Ranch or maybe Bonham's, and I'm trying to think of Cross Creek Ranch. It'd be in those, it wouldn't involve a lot of small property owners. It'd be maybe 2 or 3 really small property owners. And if this foundation made the 25% match, COCO is asking if the commissioners of the county would sponsor the grant, be the fiscal agent, because the only eligible entities in Custer County on the hazard mitigation plan that could sponsor would be Custer County, Silver Cliff, or West Cliff. So they want to know if that's something that you would support doing, if it didn't cost the county any money more than, there's still going to be some time involved on doing EM grants and managing it. And she's saying, and I've got to reach out to Steve Bowen, but that the deadline would be extended, the state would help write the grant, there would be no county funds involved, and they want to help us learn how to do an A+ grant, potentially. Without COCO being the one to kind of want to facilitate it and do it, it would be more than I could chew on at all. I've learned that, so I don't want to overcommit.
She did call me. We had a relatively extended conversation. I happened to be traveling at the time, so I didn't have 100% of my attention there. But part of her conversation was that she had this $500,000 grant opportunity, and it was going to be $100,000 for the county to match that. And I said, look, I didn't say it specifically to her, but I said, well, that's going to be an issue because we don't have $100,000. Right. And then I got to thinking after that conversation was, if people make their living writing and administering grants and expect other people to match those grants to keep them employed, I struggle with that a little bit. Now, if they're needed, I don't have a problem with that. But just to go out and write grants, because that's what I do to make a living. Oh, and by the way, you're going to have to cough up $30,000 for this to happen, but it's such a great grant, it's going to do your county. I'd start filtering that a little. Now, maybe that's cynicism on my part, but it'd be great for everybody to run around and dream up these projects. But that doesn't mean that I don't think morally we're obligated to try to match all these grants because we don't have the money. And I kind of told her that. I didn't get into the whole making your living doing grants thing, but
right.
And said,
that came up as an issue before with COCO. Yeah.
One of the commissioners despised COCO for that particular reason.
Right.
They felt they were doing this just for
just to make money.
Yeah.
Sure. Which I don't think she makes money any other way, right? I'm not picking on her, using her as an example.
Yeah.
That's what she does for a living.
Yeah, the COCO organization does the watershed protection. They're mostly on the black side after the fire, and then some of the other child organizations like Custer are doing the green mitigation pre-fire. Chaffee County just passed a sales tax to do the same thing. But yeah, it's a fine line of do we really need this? Right. Now with the Billington Ranch, I know you guys have spent some time down there trying to reforest that would stabilize the slopes and potentially protect the watershed. Right. But at some point, the ranch owners there need to come forward and say, I really want you to support this too.
I'm on board with Tom, in terms of, we need to look at each opportunity and say, what is the benefit? As opposed to Commissioner.
Should take money 'cause it's there.
The last commissioner who was, if Coco's involved, I'm voting no. That was his attitude.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was just irresponsible in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we do need to look at each one
Yeah.
and say, if we're gonna commit any county resource, even if it's just administration of the grant, we need to look at and say, well, who is going to do that? Are we sticking more work on Donna? How much work?
So, yeah.
I mean, we need to look at these carefully and determine what's the benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would hope that we could look to you on these situations and you say, hey, we're probably talking 25, 30 hours this year, or 300 hours, or whatever. 'Cause I don't know what it's gonna take to administer this
Correct.
reforestation grant, wouldn't have a
Right.
clue.
I agree completely.
And it's all, it's all online. That's where I kind of brought up at the staff meeting. I don't know much about 2 CFR 200, and, if we start getting into this, we have to be compliant. And
Well, it seems
I'm
like
not
anything
saying-
we ask for, you ought to have a plan against how to spend it and why you want it, right? So, how to go forward. That's sort of tagging
Well,
on what,
yeah.
what Jay and Tom just said, right? I mean, that's how you would do it. You're not just going out looking, then
Right.
here's some money
Dream it
available,
up.
I'll go figure out how I'm gonna
Right.
go spend it.
Yeah. Sometimes that's not
right,
in our best interest, especially when it comes to deliverables and,
Right.
right.
and administration.
Well, and getting back to the Ready, Set, Go grants and some of those other ones, I kind of want to tighten up and not make that part of, I want to make my focus a little smaller. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah.
to interrupt you, I apologize.
No, you're all right.
If I look to you, you're our expert, you need to say, this one is something we really need to
You wanna go
pursue.
chase?
Yeah.
And this is one that I just don't really see the utility in us doing. So, I mean,
Okay.
Well, and she has done that even this fall.
I know you have, and
Yeah.
I'm just
FEMA
I'm
grant.
reiterating that just because
Right,
Coco, and I'm not picking on Coco, any
Yeah.
organization says, I want X, Y, and Z,
right,
I look to you to say, we really need to do
Yeah.
this because this, and this,
right.
or I don't see the utility in it, or something like that. I'm
Yeah,
looking to you.
and this one, sort of follows that, we're not trying to protect or rebuild a, water treatment facility or some critical infrastructure. So this is really, more of a showcase reforestation project that would benefit, 1 or 2 property owners down there. It also, it gets our foot in the door to learn the process and to show the state we could do something if we have a future aspiration to do that. But without a partner like Coco Cusp, we'll never build that capability. So it's sort of hard for me. I mean, the easy answer for me is to say, yeah, let's not do it. I don't want to have any more workload. But then, the flip side is,
But you're
if we
professional,
ever,
you're not gonna,
No.
workload is not gonna make
No.
your decision, I know that.
and if we ever want to get our foot in the door, this could be an incredible learning opportunity. If those things happen, if it's, awarded to, like Coco, another vendor, if they've got this foundation, which I sat on the conference call, I know it's a reputable foundation, if they're really putting up 25% and cash, and there's no cash outlay, then do we want to turn that down?
And that's when we would ask you, what do you think? And you said, yeah, I think the administration is minimal or reasonable, let's do it. I think we'd be on board.
Yeah, I think, if I talk to Steve Boland and they're saying they're gonna write the grant, they're gonna walk us through this, then I think it would be a reasonable expectation to try to go for the money and see. And then, if those things aren't met, then say pass. And, you as commissioners don't have to make that final decision now. You'd have to sign a grant application in March or April, but the award wouldn't be until 2020, and you'd still be able to say, this isn't what we talked about, this got a little more complicated. So I will let
We gotta
them
move
know,
on.
I'll let them know that we'll, look at the potential with no
One
commitment.
quick, you call me if my pants down, RSG grant, what is
The
the?
Ready, Set, Go.
Oh, ready, set, go.
Yeah.
With an exclamation point.
And along
Oh,
that
I was
same,
looking at RSGL.
yeah,
Okay, sorry.
and along that same line, PSAP
It took me a while.
PSAP is the public service answering point, that's dispatch.
Got it. You are the
See, I have a quarter, you just have to bring the
Give
jar.
us a treat sheet.
No, you're fine. I mean, it'd be crazy to write all that stuff out.
Oh, I know.
I just,
Fine, I just didn't.
we talked about PSAPs last night, and I was struggling with that. I just could not get a grip on that.
Public service answering point.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
All right,
Thank you, ma'am.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Huh? Take care.
Break?
Yep.
Yep. We're going to recess for about 3 minutes.
Do you have a card?
Need a cup of mud. Where's that mud?
Yeah. Oh.
Whatever.
That's another maintenance
I
problem.
don't see anybody else that we do that for.
There's no end to it, you know. Once we start.
She's our hour person.
But yeah, if it comes back, I'll be through the stuff.
Remember,
Okay.
law
I don't have
enforcement
much fun with me, except I can help.
We're going somewhere with
and
it.
enforcement.
I'm
We can do that.
Because then where do we start?
January meeting.
Well, I leave this one for you.
Okay, sounds good.
Wait back in there.
I know,
Need a
it's, I
big
need
one.
it, I do.
Yeah.
There are fewer laws.
Maybe I could get a wider, slightly taller one.
Excuse me.
Okay, the fun is beginning. Do you want to come over to my office
I gotta rinse out my coffee cup first.
when you're done?
Well,
I'm just stalling as long as I can.
you
Got
know,
some more
once
letters
we're
to
back,
write?
opportunity to get her.
Yeah.
So,
Go dump your coffee and will you come see me?
I'll probably forget.
Okay, then go dump your coffee and we'll
They've
have a
never
chit chat.
offered her.
Oh, I'm gonna
Please.
see that. Oh, okay.
Oh, I gotta quit drinking.
No, you gotta have that.
We've been saying that for years.
Are you on? I didn't see you on the agenda.
Oh, you have to be on the
Are you
agenda.
ceasing and desisting again?
I am here to see my common law husband.
He'll be here in just a minute. He'll be in the bathroom.
See, you're getting a laugh over my joke.
What's going on, Yakety?
Oh, I wanted to talk to Mr. Smith.
No, geez.
Yeah, I should.
Is that as exciting as you can get? Angie, how you doing?
We're doing okay.
Good.
I'm gonna eat my candy bar while you're
Well,
talking.
one, where you, where we're at, and then two.
The deputy came over
Oh,
yesterday
that's
and
not
she
good.
was sitting at the
That's to
house.
spend that.
Okay.
Keep me.
Sitting at the house?
In a motorhome,
All of
but
us?
he wanted to
What we do?
do trailers and stuff. And look who turned him
You
in.
wanna do
It'll be
it?
fun. No issue.
Does it call it now?
Well,
Let me know what.
You went there and started the fire?
inside one of those old mobile
No.
homes.
For what purpose?
He should live in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
He's got a motorhome or a trailer that deputy came over.
Yeah, I'll deal with it and then collect the money later.
It's a septic, because no one has a spot.
Big
And
boy
he's
note
supposed to
here.
put in,
Oh, nice. Acronym.
infiltrators.
These acronyms.
Septic systems.
And I did have,
Septic.
I didn't know this ready to go, but I had to pay attention to it to get it. And then that
I didn't
PSAP.
realize. I'm looking at it, I didn't realize I was in
Yeah,
population
yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Why didn't somebody,
Well, and TICP,
the person that
I
bought
don't know that
the
either.
Half of them, I don't know, I
certificate,
just.
are they gonna go forward or not?
I figured we ask every once in a while, you know.
Because the
Enough for it.
phone number I have, he hasn't set up a mail.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's,
There's our new treasurer.
doesn't that guy just have
talked
to
to her,
come
he's
in
staying home today, she's
and do
been
whatever he has to do and deed to the
Yeah.
property?
An off the wall
What does Pete
question.
Moran still have
It's
to
not
do
even
with
off
it? I
the wall,
mean,
it's
he's,
just off topic
Linda's
question.
still the owner, so you.
I talked to you about, I brought to you, a question about three people were joint tenants.
but
You said I needed to
what's
file
the
death
term, the
certificates.
time limit for,
I have those to get it to the third party.
is it 3 years
Do I file
after a
with the
tax
clerk?
certificate is issued?
Clerk, or do I file with
That
the
the
court?
property owner,
Got it, I'll do it today.
so
Thanks for
it's
your
way,
help.
way
I
past
really
time.
appreciate it.
But the guy that bought the
Maybe
certificate
a
never
lawyer,
followed
yeah.
through and did the deed.
When it comes
What's he
to
have
certain
do?
areas, I have no clue.
Pay something?
You don't even have to pay, just have to apply, and I think the tires cleaned up for free.
Last time I signed,
See if I can get a hold of them, or
Well, that's
write
what I
on a
wanna do,
letter.
is get that guy to follow through, and is Vern still interested?
That's why I say
Or not?
3,
Because at one point,
7
Vern
or 8.
wanted that piece of property,
Yeah.
and he was gonna talk to this guy
We said
directly,
2
but
minutes,
he
and
can't get a
I
hold of him.
know.
What's the guy's name in the
Oh, just take, walk down the hall and go to the bathroom, if nobody's in there.
4.5, so.
Well, then that's what we're gonna start doing, 4.5 minutes. And I'm gonna go on strike if things around here don't change fairly quick.
With,
I mean, all he has to do is give Vernon a power of attorney.
Sustenance.
If
Are you gonna
Vernon
have
still wants
signs?
it, he can just give him a
Are you
power of
gonna
attorney
picket?
to go ahead and
Oh.
handle it for him. He doesn't
Yes.
have to come up with
We
anything.
want cinnamon bears, we want
I thought
cinnamon
that
bears.
was.
Here they are, everybody's here.
Withdrawals.
You saved me a seat again?
I was at Big Party the other day too, I could have.
Got the Joe.
Excuse me,
Marianne is just,
she's trying to steal my stuff and everything. Man,
I'm turning this off because it's empty.
I mean,
okay,
he doesn't have any, well, I know he's still the legal owner as of right now, but
are you gonna come see me?
I guess that better looks like we're gonna get busy here.
Well, at the risk of
She is cute.
moving forward,
I'll come and see you.
meeting will come back to order. We will reconvene. Next on our agenda is a report from the treasurer's office. See how I said that?
Good, right?
You're
How
the
are ya?
treasurer today.
Just today. You had Sicky stay home.
Uh-oh.
We don't like sicky around here, do we?
Get a copy of this, because I didn't see.
Let me look real quick, but I don't think so.
Yeah,
I
we
was
did.
told you did.
Yeah,
Say,
treasurer's
Brenda
report.
sent it.
Yeah. You want the date on it?
It's here.
Let me back it
I
up.
missed it.
Hold on just a second.
Just look familiar.
12/4, 2018.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I had it on the very bottom.
Uh-huh.
You may not got it. I pulled it off an email. So 12/4. Okay.
Balance.
We got any money?
No.
Few bucks.
So, I don't know, have you guys ever been given like a layman's tutorial on how to read this? Do you understand? What each of the columns
Yeah,
mean,
sometimes
all
we
that?
ask. There was a couple in here we didn't know.
So, for example, you got your beginning balance, that would have been your October ending balance for
Right.
each of the funds,
Mhm.
okay? So, as a prime example, anybody that had tax collection that we collect on mills, their ending balance, say for example, fire district, okay, so their beginning balance for the new month was $10,032.67. Because that's what we would have finished their balance off in October. But if you follow that line clear over to the transfers next to last column, that same amount was paid out to them. That was their tax collection that we give them. From the end of October, we pay out in November. So the first column is just taxes. That's what we're collecting on mill levy.
Okay.
That is significant higher than last month because we had our tax lien sale in November.
Right.
So we collected pretty much the remainder of all the taxes with the exception of the few mobile homes that we have not collected on. But that balanced out all the rest of the mills, all the money that we have coming in for taxes for the remainder of the year. Second, or would be the third column, the delinquent tax. That's basically all the interest based on the current tax column. Specific ownership tax is predominantly Kelly's monies, and it is classes B, C, D, and F, which is directly established from her reports from the prior month. So when she balances out her October business, we then distribute that to anybody that gets mills. They're distributed a piece of the pie of Kelly's money. Portions of Kelly's money then goes to the state. The state then reimburses us Class A and F, which also gets distributed to anybody that has mills. So that's that specific ownership tax column. Receipts and miscellaneous, this is actually the monies that we brought in for the month. People that brought in a grant, a check, paid their bill, whatever is your receipt miscellaneous. Then you start your distribution or disbursements money. The warrants paid is all of the approved checks that you approved of Donna's stuff the prior month. So this is the money that cleared the bank. Warrants paid. Stuff that you probably approved at your October last day of the month. That's cleared the bank. Treasurer's fees, we get a fee associated with tax collection. So each of the entities that have a mills, we take a little piece of the pie, and that gets transferred back into county general. And then transfer miscellaneous, you can see the approval for like the $125,000 that we transferred out of lieu of tax to pay the bills. That's in that column. It also has any of the warrants that we pay directly. It doesn't go on a warrant through Donna. It's paid out of our office to pay the entities that get their tax revenue.
Now, these treasurer's fees, are their disbursements or their receipts?
No, they're disbursements. That actually gets taken out. So as an example, C1 School District General Fund, we collected in taxes $23,640.16. They pay us, I think theirs is 1/4% treasurer's fee for collecting their money for them.
Okay.
A lot of the other entities, Fire District, Upper Arkansas, they pay us 1%.
Okay, so let's
so minus 5910.
5910 is what the school, we took out of their,
For administering the.
That's right.
right,
So
for
we took
collecting
that
their
out,
money.
and
And it goes into
those are
county.
positive money. That's
Right,
real
it
money
is-
that goes
yeah.
back into the our.
Goes into the county general.
Right.
So that's a disbursement out of their line item.
Right.
So the $4,000 was added to the general fund.
Correct. Correct.
Cool, thanks for that explanation.
Thank you.
Same with transfers.
Transfers is the checks that we pay out to the entities for their tax collection. Transfer of the money from one fund to another, like the $125,000 from lieu of tax. Kelly's checks, all of Kelly's disbursements, the $264 toward the bottom. That is her paying the state of Colorado for all of her registrations, the sales tax, things of that nature.
Who does the state send the tourism money to? You?
To us.
To you guys?
That would be, so they got this
Lodging and
month.
tourism.
Your lodging to 65.
That was the
Right,
beginning
that was the
balance.
beginning
Right, so they actually received,
19.4,
yeah,
right?
19,443.38, and they actually pay us 5% for doing their books, because it's not tax collection. They're not mill levy. It's taxes
Right.
that are paid
Right.
through the hotel
Right.
industry or whatever. So they are at a little higher rate because it's not actual mills. So they pay us 5%. So that's what their 972 is. And they had one check that cleared for the
Right.
month
For
in
that
the amount of
$800
$800.
And
Yeah.
is that a legislative percentage you get?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that 800 was for Vista Works.
That's the one check that cleared their account in that month's time.
God knows how many more are not gonna clear it, but hey, no deal. So, the county general received 972 out of that 19,443 for tourism.
Right. Yeah, it's part of the 4,000 that got.
That was
Good.
our tax, do their work.
And
We
so,
keep the money.
who collects that tax at the state level? Who does that money go to?
For tourism, they pay it through their licensing.
Right, but
They
it goes to
submit-
what department at the state? Revenue?
Department of Revenue, and then it gets sent back to us.
Okay.
Yeah, our portion. I'm sure they take a cut, but
Right.
Kelly
Yeah,
gets
I
all
believe
those
they do.
reports. She gets the reports because it is confidential, but we get the money.
Right.
And it's just a flat fee.
So my reports actually show the full amount, they don't minus out the amount
Their
that
cut.
county,
Right.
their, yeah, the
Right.
administrative
Right.
amounts.
Are you, I know we're kind of going probably on a little rabbit trail here, but this is something I wanted to talk about at some point. Are you allowed to share names and not money You
No.
can't share the names either. We talked about this at CCI last week.
For what, Tom?
For entities that are collecting and remitting lodging tax. I'm trying not to call it pillow
You're
tax
trying to
because that
figure out
irritates me.
How we earned it, where up here in the county?
That's your deal, isn't it? So, yeah, so,
I have all the names on a list,
right,
and then I just look at that list every month and just, it's kind of a, I don't wanna say a guessing game, but over the years, you just gotta familiarize yourself, you know. I'll use, Antler Liquor as an example, cause they're pretty steady about what they, and this is sales tax, but lodging tax would work the same way. They're pretty steady about what they bring in, and you know, in the summer, they're gonna be up here, and in the winter, they're gonna be down here, and so I just sort of watch those things, and then Jackie, I don't know where she went, like on the lodging tax, if Jackie is out and about and notices somebody's running a
Bed and breakfast.
bed and breakfast out of their house, and she doesn't think that they're paying their, then she'll ask me, I'll go on and look at the list, and I'll say, I'll see that they are on there and that that's good, and or they're not on there, and then I notify Department of Revenue, and they're actually the ones that contact
Reach
them and
out.
say, hey, we see
it's up to
your-
us to monitor, it's up to them to
to
contact.
contact.
Yeah, cause they have no clue what the.
Weak system, I'm telling you. That drives
Yeah,
me
and
nuts.
it's hard, when I first started doing it, I asked them, how in the heck am I supposed to know
Right.
what,
Exactly.
and she said, it's pretty much, you just gotta, and it's good to be in a small town.
Right, can you
Because
imagine?
you know how the trends are, and you know the businesses, and,
There's gotta be a lot of people in
Everything
these big
but-
counties that get the
Oh,
way
yeah,
it works.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
come on.
yeah, I would imagine.
And it's not right in these small counties either,
Mhm.
really, it's just
Yeah,
a
I'm sure
sorry
there's people out there
state.
that don't.
Boy, they'd have to have a
administered
whole new,
program.
enforcement department in the state to go run around, I don't know how you do it.
You would, I don't know how you do it.
Well, it's on the honor system right now.
I know it is,
It's
but
just
And the lodging
ridiculous.
tax, I think, is really hard because everybody's got a room in their house that they wanna rent out.
Rent
Or
out.
have a summer home that they wanna rent out. And some people know they should be paying it and they don't. Some people don't have a clue they should be paying it.
And some know and don't. That's the ones I worry
Yeah.
about.
We know it's not hard, I mean, they're not paying it, the customer
The
is.
customers.
You know, so it's just a hassle to go figure it out and get the paperwork to do it. It's
Mhm.
like, social security, tax, and, when you have a business, it's a hassle filling it all out.
All that out, yeah.
Well, I wonder if it would be reasonable to ask tourism to take that on. Say, hey, it's your money, you ought to be helping us watchdog this.
Police it somehow.
I
Certainly
think
ask
you've
them.
tried, haven't
haven't
you?
I already have answers. And I'm
Well, then we'll wait till you're up.
Yeah, that's
Okay, let's
Okay,
finish
well,
her up.
But
I want
I
to
rabbit
ask
trailed
a
and I
question.
partial
apologize.
answers.
I move that we accept the
Wait a
treasurer's
minute before you
report
do
for the
that.
month of November 2018 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded to accept the monthly report for November from the treasurer's discussion.
Yeah, I wanted just to ask a question. Is this general? appreciate that. That's good,
Yeah, thanks
good
for
help.
that.
Thanks for doing that. So if you look at the beginning balance and the ending balance, it's about 200 grand we spent out of here to do business. To me, that's not a bad thing. Is that normal? Is that a normal cash flow? Looks to me.
There's no way of knowing normal because
Well,
we're
how did
just,
it
we're
compare to
just,
last November?
I
this
would
time?
have to go look at it, but,
You know, it's sort of like
we
an
just have to
electric bill.
realize, yeah, we're not making the money coming in because we're at the end of the collection
Sure, I
of our
understand that.
taxes.
But you're in that
So-
same month each year,
Right.
and all I'm asking
Right,
is.
so that's why we
so-
had to transfer the money, because we didn't have enough money within county general to cover all the expenses that you guys
No, I
agreed to pay
understand,
out.
but
Mhm.
That's
last
not
year, that may
abnormal.
have been the case too,
It,
that's
it
all I'm
would
asking.
it would have been the case.
And the
but
year
it's-
before maybe,
yeah.
so
A
then
little
I'm,
sooner, is what happens sometimes when, we get a lot of our collection earlier in the year. So we have less and less that comes in, say after our last deadline collection, June and July. So August, September, typically if it's not a year that we're spending a lot of money within that time, we may not ask you to do a transfer at that point
Right.
because we're sustaining okay in the budget or within our funds. But if that happens to be a time frame when somebody's wanting new vehicles or a payment is due on a lease, then we may even have to have that transfer of funds even a little
No, I
earlier.
understand. So
It's not
here's why
uncommon.
I'm asking the question. You know, even in my home, when I'm watching, I get an electric bill and it says, last year this time you paid up here, this year you're here. I say, oh good, my new insulation paid off this year. You know, or it's up higher and I say, geez, I need to go fix the window. So from a commissioner point of view, you guys are smart. I understand you work it every day and you see the trends and you've got it in your mind. But to come in and ask us to transfer, we're going to transfer $600,000. We go, whoa, why? If we know that it could present at the same time, here's a trend line throughout the year. I mean, you could map a trend line for us for the whole year. It goes up and down because you get revenue in, you get revenue out. We could look at the revenues coming in August and say, normally we should see a bunch because the rodeo's on, the tourists are up here. But this time it didn't do that this year, and so we can say, well, maybe it's because we had there's logical reasons. The forest fire kept people coming out, whatever. So it helps us understand whether we ought to be calling the sky is falling because we don't have enough money, and we got to get the tourism board busier to get people up here to move in, or we've got to go tighten our belt and start moving and saying we're not going to spend the money we thought we were going to spend. It's just a way of helping us monitor it a little bit rather than you come in and when you see the numbers black and white, this is good. To help us understand maybe where it is in context.
Well, and you're kind of comparing apples and oranges because you're talking budget. You're talking,
I'm talking how to
typically,
spend it. I'm talking, show
right.
me
And we have
what
to
the difference
transfer,
was last year for the month of November.
we have to transfer the money based on what you guys spent in the month before. And we calculate or know what the ending balance for a particular month is. And then Donna, from budget and her warrants, what you guys are spending for that next month, by the end of that given month, we have to transfer money because she had already wrote the checks.
Got it. Understand.
So
But
we
with
have
that
no
last
way
year-
of knowing that because that's between you and budget. That's how you spent the money.
I understand what you're saying.
I don't care.
Because it sounds logical, and I don't know if it should, but it sounds logical that in any given month, we could track the income and outflow based upon what the previous year did, so we could compare, is this typical or is it atypical, this particular payment cycle? Is that what
That's
you're-
exactly right. I don't care.
Yeah, I think we probably only have it, without going into a lot of digging, we would have points of when we've asked for transfers. You know, if it was in August, because that was a big month, a particular
Sure.
year.
But-
Typically, this time of the year is when we do the transfers and, to cover the checks
I would
that
just
we don't have the money to
think it would be
cover.
great if, I don't care when you start doing it, but right now I see $200,000 we spent in.
How does that compare to the same
How does that
time
compare
last year?
to this time last year?
Well,
If you don't have that
technically-
data, I don't care.
Technically, if you look at your warrant list, your disbursements, warrants paid, you paid in November
I know.
$668,000.
But the difference of what we took in and what we paid is $200,000 more. That's all. You see, we took in less revenue this
Right.
month than we spent, and we got a
Right.
difference of 200K. I understand that, and so all I'm saying, you do that every month. There's an income and there's an outgo, and so it would be helpful. Is all I'm suggesting that
Right.
we understand the trend even from the previous month, or maybe we get a trend of the last 3 months, and then we see the trend from the previous year for that same month. Because, we've got history. We know what
Right.
happened
And
a year ago.
do you have history with all these reports?
Yes, but I'm asking you guys if it would be able to give us a plot, a line, a point on a graph that says last year, or you can say it in a separate note. This is typical. Well, we spent 250,000 more last year this time
Right.
than we took in, and that wasn't a big deal. But here's why: or we spent a lot because of our emergency that we had due to a forest fire, and we know we didn't take in the revenue. That's all. It's just something helpful for us to compare and see if we need to do something to tighten our belt, or to go the following month do something different. That's all. A little more information. I like this. This is a good presentation. Susie, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm
Right.
looking for how to react to $200,000 transfer, or when a transfer we ended up spending 200,000 more than we took in. Knowing that we collect taxes different times of the year, that's
Right.
understandable.
The reason we didn't take it in is because of tax season, basically.
Right.
Okay. Further discussion, gentlemen?
No.
Here, let's see where we're at. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of accepting the November Treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And you didn't have any other thing to...
No,
You want me to sign both of them?
I didn't, does she usually have you sign her
No.
copy?
She
Just
leaves
Kelly?
me one and she takes one.
Okay,
Right.
well, she gives Kelly one.
I don't know what she does with them, but,
Okay.
okay, very good, thank you. I
Thank
can
you.
sign this one if you wanna take it.
Stay here, come back.
What? Oh,
Oh, yeah, we gotta shake paws.
This is protocol. We did that last year, and we did it last month.
Hope it wasn't too tough for
Do you want me to sign this one too, or no?
is that gonna be your copy?
I just,
I can
I don't think she cares.
I was
I
gonna
can
say,
print another
I
one.
think you only
I thought we only
ever
signed
signed
one,
one,
but-
yeah.
Okay.
okay, all right, thank you. All right, we'll move on. Oh yeah. International trade, no. You'll come to me.
Good morning.
How, sir?
Good morning.
How are you?
Good morning.
Sit wherever you'd like.
All right.
Where's the big boy sit? Wherever he likes. How are you?
Are you comparing me to the 800-pound gorilla?
Something like that. 45
it's
minutes.
the elephant in the room.
I'll take them both, that's fine. Thank you.
I have an opportunity to give this to Brenda ahead of time, any chance, or is this something that?
I could.
It'd be nice.
We would appreciate, because we will review these before we sit down, so we're
Okay.
not, I mean, I don't wanna sit here and read while you're talking.
Right.
I'd like to-
I could do that.
If you wouldn't mind, I appreciate it, thank
They
you.
wanna be ready to grill you.
Okay.
It's all right, we can't yell at you if we don't know ahead of time.
We could figure something out.
That's true, yeah. So, good. Okay,
It's been a busy month, but basic normal stuff. Less big projects than we've done throughout the year. But excuse me, just a few of the highlights. We had to move some of the tech in the sheriff's office from one side of the wall to the other. It doesn't sound very complicated, but lots of fiber optics were involved. Very detailed stuff.
Wow.
Lots of fun to do that.
and they bought 2 new computers over there off of their remaining Vail grant.
Off of the Vail grant, I replaced the undersheriff's computer and the detention computer. The detention computer was pretty hashed. It was also old. Most of the computers I'm replacing are somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 years old. So what we're doing now is trying to figure out a replacement schedule so that we can be replacing them every 3 to 5 years instead of.
Where do the old computers go?
Well, that's up to you. I can upcycle some of them. Some of them are just going to be, I take the hard drives out. There's a protocol to take the hard drives out, destroy them completely, and then we can either refurbish them or recycle the old ones. Some of them are able to be recycled, some of them are not. Down there at the bottom of this page, it talks about refurbished server. I'm going to be taking some of the old computers that we took out of the phone system, which are some pretty monstrous server systems, and I'll be refurbishing them over the next several months and upgrading the sheriff's server. He wanted like an email server so that they can keep their communications internal and keep everybody on the same page.
Just a RAID, just a storage function.
Basically, yes, exactly. The emails will be kept on their server instead of the way we do it now, which is an off-site host. So everyone can log into any computer that they have access to and get their emails off.
in a more secure fashion.
Like an H-drive.
Right, exactly. So that's what we do with some of the computers. The other, I talked last month about the eBay server, or eBay system. I've also done some research into a Colorado government surplus sale. I'm not seeing the cost-effective nature of it. They don't, unless you're actually sitting there and you can just walk into the next office and say, here, put this. There's not going to be a huge amount of money that comes in from that, unfortunately, because they just sell things so cheaply. So.
Would the school have any interest in our excess surplus?
They may.
Maybe some kids take them home who don't have it at home.
They may. I could pull the hard drives and flush the memories and make certain that everything's clean, and we could look into that. The other thing is the Wetmore Library is asking for a new computer, so I can take one of our refurbished and put it down there. So.
Yeah, the problem I thought too about the school, but we're not talking about keyboard, we're not talking about monitors, we're just talking about towers, right?
Yes, pretty much. When a keyboard is done, it's done. So I keep wired keyboards on hand, and then a few wireless for people that want wireless keyboards.
So we could give those away, perhaps, but there's none of the
Right.
We're good to tower if let's say a family can't afford another $300-400 to buy.
Well, I do have a bunch of old wired keyboards that we could, if that's the case, if we find that situation.
Yeah.
Monitors, not so much. So monitors, they tend to cycle through. I have a few of the 18-inch monitors. I have one of the 24-inch monitors that I use, that I keep for emergencies. Oh my goodness, my monitor went out. I need to replace this immediately. So I don't keep a lot of, partly because they're big.
It's not a surplus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Got it.
We burn through them.
Okay.
Because we're talking about refurbishing.
Yes, sir.
When were these desk laptops that we've got bought?
I believe
Last year, the year before.
Late
last.
2016,
They're like
right?
2 years old.
Yes, they're about 2 years old.
Donna had bought these when she was elected.
Did she
for us.
buy them herself and pick them out?
I believe so.
She did, yes.
Okay, next time when we redo them,
Mm-hmm.
let's make them a little narrower. They're a little bit too big.
You want the more compact
Well,
versions, or
it crowds us on the table. It
Okay.
also is hard to get in the case.
I
Some
see.
cases won't. The classic cases are hard.
Yes.
You're gonna have to wait about
hard
5
to-
years.
I don't care what. I'm just making a suggestion. If you're
Okay.
going out
Well,
buying
maybe-
laptops for other people, and they're a little cheaper too. I don't know how she picked these. They're nice computers. I'm
these
not
are
knocking them.
these are very high end.
Yeah, they're very good. You can still get the same guts, and I like the number pad and all that too.
Okay.
But they're just a little bit too big.
Okay.
You notice I don't use them.
Not for me, they're not.
Okay.
But nonetheless, maybe
Well, I'll consult
maybe
with
the
each
newly
person.
I'd love to
elected-
use this as my personal.
Yeah.
I love it.
But if you travel a lot,
What I'll
if
do-
you're
yeah,
going around
exactly.
and carrying it in a case a lot, it's
What I'll do is I'll
CCI
consult.
freebie is a good one.
I'll consult with
But
each
it's just a
person when it's time
suggestion.
to replace it.
It's not that so much as
Okay.
it is depends on how you use them.
True.
You throw up a big flag in front of people, and it's we're up behind our wall here.
Yes.
Maybe the newly elected commissioner would want to front new laptops. for
You
them.
know, the last
He
one.
could.
Who would that be?
The last
He
one
could.
had his job, did it? Why
Right, good point. Let's move on, sir.
Just my
Yes, sir.
opinion is all.
What else? Anything?
One of the things that is ongoing right now is I have multiple computers that have been purchased by the treasurer and the assessor upstairs. Be replacing. We have to replace all of our Windows 10 or Windows 7 operating systems with Windows 10. This goes a long way towards that. It'll actually cut down on the expenses that we have to outlay for software, which I'm doing before the end of the year, as it says here, and replace Windows 7 operating system, so that we don't have to buy it next year. So it goes in under this budget. Even if I spend, I don't have a copy of the expenses yet, but the way I'm looking at it, even if I were to spend another $4,000 on software before the end of the year, I'll still come in about $6,000 under budget for the IT budget itself. So that's what I'm working towards.
How many total?
If I spend $4,000 this year, this month, then I will still come in at least $6,000 under budget
Okay.
for the designated budget this year.
Sort of sounds like
It's been
what you even were
interesting.
thinking about it.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm shooting for.
Pretty good.
Dropbox?
The Dropbox is a secure form of communication. As you know, when we email things, there's only a certain amount of data that can be transferred, only certain sized files. A Dropbox is kind of a file transfer system wherein, yeah, so I set up a Dropbox for you, I share data, I can put a movie, a multiple gigabyte file into a Dropbox, and then he can share it with you, and you can look at it.
I don't have to download.
You don't have to receive it in email. It does download to your computer temporarily. You can review it. You can make modifications to it. Let's say an Excel spreadsheet. One of the things we're doing with Dispatch is setting up a Dropbox for an Excel spreadsheet so that Dispatch can be notified of a fire burn, and then the fire chief will automatically get an update saying, "Oh look, I've got a new update on this file. I know that there's a fire burn at such and such county road, and my guys don't have to worry about it if people see smoke there." So that's one of the drop boxes we're setting up. The others are more secure communication for the deputies. We're looking at creating a log so that this deputy logs into his Dropbox. He puts down information saying, "I did this today. Please be on the lookout for such and such." And then everybody's
on my computer right here.
Yeah, and it's a great system. It's a great method of sharing. It's actually how we update the new 911 system, all the data, instead of in the past where I would have to bundle all the files into a zip file and email them off and hope that it was that the people got the
current version.
Exactly. I just put it into a Dropbox. They pull it out at their end and download it to the system.
I like it because if a disaster on your computer, it's held in the cloud and it's secure. So
You can
go
put
to
an app
another
on your
computer.
phone.
Right, you can go to another computer and get all your files. I use it for my logs.
Where does it reside physically? Is it in a gov?
I use basically it's a Google system, so there's a couple of servers around the world that store it. I believe Google has triple redundancy. If you go up to the Denver Technical Center, you'll see 3 very nondescript buildings off to the side. Those are Google servers. So,
Cool.
So it's stored around the world.
Good.
Anything else?
What do you need from us? Anything?
Nothing right now.
You're the man.
What would you need in 4 or 5 years for an office space?
An office space?
What do you mean? You don't like it?
Could that go in the new
You have
Justice
office
Center?
space right
Yes,
now?
I have a closet that's about the size of this table. So,
If we get a new Justice Center,
we get a new Justice Center. It would be nice to have an IT office within that space. I would need to have 2. One here, one there, because they would need a complete.
Sorry.
Is the peanut gallery?
No.
she was coughing. You cannot be sick here.
I know. I have a frog in
No,
my throat.
she's.
I apologize. That was snarky. They would need a dedicated server. Right now, all of their computers their servers are either in the back room with the 911 system or in the patrol room, and it would be nice to have it dedicated, consolidated, so that everything's there. Everything can be climate controlled. I put a nice little air filter in the server room to keep things clean and whatnot over there. So having a dedicated room like that with a small office space would be perfect in a Justice Center.
Well, I think it would be incumbent upon you to keep that in front of us so we don't forget that.
Okay.
As we move it along.
I could do that.
Yeah. I don't think it would be a
Get your
huge
requirements in as they're
square
fine.
footage, really, is all
Matter
we're
of fact,
talking
you probably ought to
Yes.
look at the RFP today.
Okay, I will do that. And I understand the sheriff was talking about some existing Justice Centers that are pretty phenomenal. It might be in my future to go
Right.
visit them and talk to the IT guys
Sure.
there. So.
Yeah, El Paso being one of them for sure. Thank you for posting the survey on the county website. If I meant to talk about that earlier today, if you go to that county website, the very top banner is yellow, bright highlighted yellow. that is where that survey lives on our county homepage, so thank you for doing that.
You're working with Cheryl with that.
Yes, indeed.
Got it out where it's easy to get to, I know.
Yep. Link right up there at the very top. Yes, ma'am.
I have a suggestion for the website.
Uh-huh.
Should there be a department for the court?
Since it's
just
not
a
a
link.
county, I could create a link to it.
Because I know how to find it because I'm pretty, Google and I befriend. But not everybody would, and they think, well, maybe if I go to the county website, I can get to, because the assessors, that goes to an outside link too. But just a link so that
I could
people
talk
can
with
find
Kay
it.
and Christina about.
If they want to find the docket or something, it'd be
Mhm.
nice to have it in a place that's easy to.
That's accessible.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great suggestion.
All right.
Human services.
Anything else, sir?
They do have
They
the
do.
they do have the website.
On that, I know, but on the county one,
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I just looked at that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Be well.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome to shake Miss Kelly's hand if you so.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You wanna keep on our good side, you better.
We're not gonna take a 4.5 minute break, we're gonna roll right into Human Resources and Finance Department. Oh my gosh, look at this stack of. I'm gonna say you need a hand cart to haul all that in here. Final budget, by golly.
That and much more.
Good. Thank you.
You sure it just keeps on showing.
Bless you. I guess you gotta be careful about coughing and sneezing. Commissioner meeting. Good
You
morning.
just have to do it at the right time.
How are you? Yeah, that's right. I can do this as we go, so don't wait on me.
I have, first and foremost, 3 resolutions. First one would be to adopt the budget, the second to set the mill levies, and the third to appropriate sums of money. They're all statutory, so they're just normal. I have 2 additional supplemental budgets. The Conservation Trust, when the Rotary asked for their money, then it put us over on the expense on that side. And then the donation by David Watts for the runway construction, the money that passed it through. So I need those 5 signed.
Thank you.
Has the council looked at those resolutions?
Yeah, she doesn't run that kind of stuff past me, but, because I wouldn't understand it, but it should be by a motion and a vote and everything.
That's why there's a
Right.
Number
Because it
already.
needs to be a motion.
Yeah,
I
I remember.
penciled it in, but I'm not positive on the numbers we need to.
So you need a motion for
28,
each resolution, is that what we're saying?
You
28.
could do it as a, I
Or as a
think,
group?
as a general motion for all of them.
How many did you have?
It was, let's see, 28 through 32 maybe?
The motion, just identify them
You want
as
me to-
resolutions 18 dash
So
20
I move
through
we
whatever.
accept the budget resolutions to adopt the budget, resolution 1828, 1829, 1830, 1831, and 1832.
Second motion. Been moved and seconded to adopt resolutions 1828 through 1832 pertaining to the budget. Discussion, Ms. Kelly?
No, that's, he just said to adopt the budget, and I thought it was
To
only
adopt the resolution.
I said like resolutions.
Now, and so, we maybe get the cart before the horse here, if one of these resolutions have to do with that budget.
And here is the budget.
So we would be adopting something we haven't seen in its final format, correct?
No.
Am I-
Is it-
I haven't looked at them, so I don't know what they are exactly, other than I was trying to listen as you went along,
It's
so.
the resolution to approve the budget.
Okay. All of these?
These are separate.
One's to set the mill levy.
Right.
Yeah,
one's to
they are.
set the
I know you just went
appropriations
through
of money,
those, but,
and then one's to approve the budget.
okay. So it was the one about approving the budget was the one I was
Well, then I
referring to.
didn't know which, because when you sign this, you've approved it or you've done that, so I didn't know which order that
Okay.
had to be. Because if you didn't approve it, you wouldn't be signing, I don't know, I
I don't
didn't have it, I didn't have a
Honestly, I don't think
preference.
it matters.
It doesn't
Well,
matter.
both done.
Are you gonna give us a copy of that today?
I
Is
need
that the
all
plan?
7 of these signed,
Okay.
and then you can take yours with you.
Would you mind emailing to me the final budget electronically?
I will as soon as I get this back to.
No rush at all.
To Vernon, because until it's signed, it wasn't real.
Right.
And then
That's
it will
fine,
be real and I will
want the
ship it.
official one,
on there.
I'll get rid of all
So
the
it's
temporary
just-
ones.
It's just process, I guess I'm asking about. We haven't seen that yet.
You know what the numbers were when you
Right.
finished? And
If they
that's
haven't
where it's
changed.
at, and that's what I would have asked if I had changed.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Now we'll sign the documents.
Do you want, here, we'll start 3 there.
My ghostwriter signed it,
What if it
2
failed?
there.
and she'd have to get new.
Yeah.
You guys would be not getting paid in January.
It might have failed for 5 minutes and then we redo it. So we got initial each, is that what you're asking?
And they do have signatures by the little yellow guy.
So by the yellow, you want an initial or a signature?
A signature, please.
Okay.
And I believe it goes chairman, vice chairman, and member.
That's good, because that's how I did it.
See, you're not a rookie.
Hey, I forgot.
Sorry. Actually, we're not either now. As of the 22nd of November.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's true.
We're ignorant second termers.
It is
I'll go
weird when
along
it's
with
not the
that.
January
Right,
thing.
yeah.
Because yeah, yours throws me off by a year.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day with watching some pro football games, thinking about their definition of rookie.
Bill really threw everybody off this year. I don't know how many
Yeah.
people said, oh, he just ran last year,
I
why is he
know.
running
When
again?
did we have to run again? I never quit running. That's 1 month of
Yeah,
not
that's
having to
like
run.
22
It
seconds,
didn't
yeah.
stop.
Well, and it's always odd anyway because it's the elections in November, but the takeover is until January, but this time it was not that way, so.
There's no initialing on them, is there?
Really,
I don't know why she said initial. She didn't initial something.
We don't have to initial somewhere, just signature.
I didn't mean to say that.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Sir?
Yeah.
Really, this
Oh,
one.
what did I do?
Oh, yeah, I guess.
That's got all 3 on it. You better check if we can, too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
She needs to bring donuts, too.
7 copies because we each get a copy.
Yes, Kelly
State
gets a
gets-
designated copy, the auditor, the state of Colorado, myself, and all 3 of you.
I'm going to sign this one.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. I was not paying attention.
Has Stephanie started? When will she start?
Yesterday was her first, I'm not sure when she came in or if she came back or what she had done. I was
Yeah,
here
she
late.
definitely cleaned.
She was here when I left.
Took the broom, couldn't find the broom this morning, so,
So that's good news.
well, unless we were trying to sweep the front walk, which I did with the dust mop. Because I couldn't even get into the scale house, doors frozen shut,
What was?
Have we set up
or the
a
lock
time
was
for
frozen.
the
I
minutes
couldn't get into it.
discussion?
I cannot get a hold of one of them. Their voice mailbox is full.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that.
And
Mhm.
so I'm just dead in the water. Annoying.
Should we send a letter? How much do we, what is incumbent upon us to get a hold of them if we can't?
Well, and that's the thing is, there were three, two that are,
Well, one we rejected immediately.
right, so that left two. Then one of the two I can't get a hold of, so I don't know what to do. It's not like it's a big pool where
How many efforts have you made to,
every day I've called that phone.
so 4, 5, 6?
27, 29, 30, probably 8 times. Because I haven't done it today.
This is
Today
for
would
one of
be
our
the-
applicants for the custodian, or maintenance.
Yeah, what I really like is, if we have 2 viable candidates, let's get them in, let's talk to them. If we can't get a hold of one of them, we have our hands full.
Well, we had 3, right, or no?
Right.
Yes.
So
I'd
that's
say
one was
drop the
rejected.
one and get the other 2. So now you're down to 1,
Well, do we want a discount?
because you can't get a hold of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I say so.
But then that really leaves us just one.
I understand that, but we need to
No,
make.
I'm good with that. I
So,
just was trying
I'm
to.
just giving you my opinion on the situation.
I
That's it.
understand.
If you can't get a hold of them after 8 days, either they didn't provide a good phone number or they don't care.
Would you like to interview the one? Is I've talked to him to make sure that he wasn't, set on having both positions.
Let's go ahead, here's what I would suggest. Let's go ahead and set an appointment for the one, for sure. And let's continue to attempt to, contact the other person. And if it comes down to we just cannot get a hold of him, we'll just move forward because we've got a county to run and things to take care of. And
Snow to shovel.
I agree with your
yeah,
assessment.
does that sound reasonable? So let's go ahead and set something up with the one gentleman, and it is both men, is that correct? Okay. So the
If that's
one
all we had, we'd interview them anyway.
man. Well, that's right.
We wouldn't say, well, no, wait, let's see if we,
No,
let's move on.
let's
Right.
do it, and
I agree.
we may come back and say, let's keep the job open, we're not happy yet, but.
Yeah, that's certainly a
Well, let's-
possibility.
You don't wanna
Let's
close it.
definitely get the one going, and let's continue to try the other gentleman, and hopefully we can get a hold of him, because I hate for him to apply and miss it because he's got phone issues. I mean, that's just, that would be terrible.
Why are you shouting
Understandable.
again?
Understandable.
Anything else, ma'am?
I feel that was not that bad.
No,
Great job.
no, that was
So do you feel it was that good?
I
reasonable.
feel like it was a whole lot of effort and a whole lot of my time. That's what I feel.
You feel tired?
Not worth the money, not worth the money.
Well, as our finance officer, good job.
But we may be looking into, because it is not, I thought you only wanted it by email.
Oh,
When you said that, I thought that was why you were telling me that.
well, I'd really like both, if
Oh,
it's
no,
okay.
awesome.
If you don't mind.
No,
Okay, so what's the problem? Is it?
Yeah.
Tell us what's
it
going-
is just too much at one time.
how do we fix it?
Probably hire another John.
Okay. And how do we do that?
Not my call. But for the $6,000, not worth it, not
What,
worth it.
$6,000?
That's what I got to take over, the accounting part,
Gotcha.
and not worth it by any means.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And I don't want extra, I'm not saying this because I want more money. It is just a
You can't
huge
do it.
amount of, it's just a huge amount of work that I'm taking home. Because it's all at the same time. I mean, it just is
If we could
too,
bleed it out over a year, it wouldn't be bad,
yeah,
but
but it's just, because now we're finished here, but then I haven't even started balancing out. And that usually would have been done a couple days ago, but I had to finish
Right.
this, and so it's just, it's really, I was hoping at time a year was over, and I don't mind trying again to see if it, I thought I could get it streamlined a little bit better to make it not be so much, just, it's like having 5 elections at the same time, you know, it just, and you know it's gonna end, so you think, okay, I can do this, but then you think, whew, is that not good?
Let me go back, if I may. I get it. And when I said, what do we do to fix it, you said, it's our call. I don't know what to do. Are you recommending we hire another person?
And I don't know, because I know that you can't, you know, I'm absolutely willing to give up the 6,000. I'm not willing to go back, no, but no, this needs to be said, I'm good with this, to go backwards on my pay, because I'm still doing the other jobs. I don't know if you could find, is John, I believe, between the two, the budget and the other was about 15 or 16,000 a year.
Is it sporadic enough that, or does it have to, like a surge, is there a surge and then there's times when you don't do anything? Is it a half-time job?
Every month I do the accounting part and the bookkeeping, but it just, you know, I think I'm speaking a little prematurely, but I would like, that we just need to know that in the back of our minds. Because
More than that.
it's not worth
No,
it.
I don't want it in the back of my mind. I want to solve an issue. If there's an issue we're unaware of, that is an inappropriate amount of additional workload that was stuck on an employee, and I don't mean stuck, but I mean asked of a dedicated employee, I don't want it just in the back of my mind. I would like to face this and say, what are we going to do to resolve it if there's an issue here? First, we have to agree that there's an issue. B, what is it that needs to get fixed? How do we fix it? And let's go ahead and do something if that's the case. That would be my procedure. I'm not speaking for my fellow commissioners, but I don't want it in the back burner. If it's an issue today, I'd like to work on it today.
Well, once I get the budget on, then it's not going to be an issue for a little while.
Right.
But that's just,
Right.
I just think you need to know that it was an exhausting year.
Okay.
That's where I'm at with it. I'm not asking you to fix it,
Okay.
but that you need to know that it is.
You don't hear me
really-
say these words very often, but as the HR person, can you and I work on this over the upcoming months to figure out how we can alleviate this disaster next year?
Well, it's not a disaster, it's just
It is a
exhausting.
disaster. If we are overworking an employee
You're not overworking me, I'm
inappropriately,
just choosing to maybe not lose 17 days vacation a second year.
and let me tell you, that is a
On that.
disaster in my opinion, okay? I don't ask people to stay here after work hours on a continuing basis. I mean, every now and then we pitch in, we do what we have to. I wanted to get a janitorial person, a cleaning person in here ASAP, because all the departments pitched in to help clean up during a short period of time, but that's not their job. And I don't feel we need to overburden you unfairly, is what I'm trying to get at. And I'd like to fix this if this is a problem.
And it's not a problem, but I just think that in the future, for the future, that.
I'm gonna
because-
disagree with you. You lose 17 days vacation, this is a problem, and I want to solve it. Now, you don't understand, I don't think, because I'm on your side, I wanna fix, I don't want you
But
to
I
be
don't
put in
want
this
you to think
position
I'm
again.
whining,
That is
that I
not,
have too much work to, because I am well paid and I don't mind
that
working
is
hard.
not the issue.
But it was just
Beyond.
that borderline of just.
Okay.
And now
You
this will
and I
be
are gonna
over,
work
so
on
I'm
this,
gonna
and
feel
I'm gonna
better
correct
because
it.
it's done.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. It's unfortunate that obviously this budget thing is all consuming.
Well, and a lot of it is the, one of the things, is the finance, our system itself, is, you would not believe what it takes to process a supplemental budget. It is unbelievable, and it is so stressful, I really physically end up unrolling the budget from the prior year, changing those totals and re-rolling it, and it's extremely stressful. I really believe there's got to be an easier way, but not
Well, maybe
with this
Donna,
particular system.
You know, I thought about it too. Sam DiNardo, we hire, we pay. He's our CPA. And seems to me we ought to be able to leverage some of his expertise, and not him necessarily, but people, to actually do some of the things that you're doing. You don't have to do these by
Well,
hand
that's
yourself.
why this ended up being there, because John never did those.
I know,
And Sam said that I was to do it.
see,
And so
well,
he's
but
added that too, that was just really,
Sam added it to you.
yes.
See, well, that's something that we can talk about, maybe because he scoped a certain amount of work and blah, blah, blah. But he's the, you know, rather than, I wouldn't wanna go hire a rookie. We're gonna hire, if we were to do this, let's say we take it to the next step, would be to get somebody to help you do the books. Well, they'd have to learn it all over again and get into the system, and then we might have to update the computers, which is a problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing
And
also,
so-
that there's a system issue.
That's right, there
Besides
is.
personnel issue.
That's right, we don't have to keep with this darn system that is out of date, and it should be more user-friendly. So we need to work, and that's the thing to work. I think, listening to her talk, it's okay to continue for now, but we ought to be looking at how do we leverage the money we already spend with Sam, and if we have to increase that budget for X dollars for something, we just need to talk about it at some point.
If I may, I'm gonna work with Don on this over the next period of time.
Yeah.
Come back and we'll just leave this as an open discussion for where we're gonna go from here.
Sure.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah. I think it needs to be worked on. I think something has to be done. Because I've been surprised by, while I've been dealing with Sam quite a bit, trying to understand what he does when we have these issues that we try to figure out what fund is fenced, what's not, how do we spend this, what's the legal parts of it. And he knows it, and we're paying him to do it. And we ought to be able to figure out how to get it so that we've got the same system between us and able to move things more cleanly than doing a lot of things by hand that you do.
Yeah, because there's an
don't
awful
have to
lot
do that.
that's by hand.
That's right.
A lot. that's
So
by hand.
I like that idea. Just let she didn't ever bring. She said, "I don't need a budget." Well, that's not true. Remember that when you came to us when we went through it. So we need to spend money to keep track of our books. That's a requirement.
And because what the treasurer, and the booking, it's not that, but 9 funds and then all by hand, there's a lot
I know.
by
I understand.
hand. And it's just time consuming.
That's
The
because
budget
of
part is
the
I will physically go
antiquated-
in and put each of these numbers in that
Right.
computer.
See, that's just silly.
And so, see, there's a lot, there's just.
So
when it's done, I'm gonna say, I'm good to go.
we need to get somebody in Sam's office to help us understand what the issues are, what we can do, and make some recommendations with you
But
and
a way to
Jay.
have the finance system that I could load this, but see, with the Excel, and Chuck's going to come in where he pulled that off, but it's still not,
I understand.
automated. I still had to go in and put all of the 2017's actuals.
That's just ridiculous.
And I don't know what to do about it, because it won't do it.
Well, Sam would know.
Well, I think we move forward. I think we hear what you're saying. I know stressful time. I would guess in 2 or 3 weeks, you'll do just what you said. Kind of breathe out and go, glad that's behind us.
That it's like, whew.
But
But let's not do it again.
we can't just
On there.
turn a blind eye if we got an
That's
issue.
what I'm trying to say.
First of
Thank
all,
you for saying that.
we need
'cause I
to
agree.
determine what the issue is if we have one, and then look at some possibilities.
Right.
But if there's something that ACS or a different programming module that I could add to it,
Right.
if there's something
We're
different
receptive
that,
to those concepts.
something that would be where I could just print it and then make the changes, but,
Sure.
72,000 entries, and it's just odd.
Can I just make one suggestion? Would you visit with other counties our size and say, how do you do, what system do you, how many people do it? Give us some, we're behind the 8 ball, or we're in front of the 8 ball, you know what I'm saying? Is there?
Does Sam do other counties too, doesn't he?
I think they do
That
more
cor-
school districts than they do a lot of stuff.
Could be a CCI thing.
Could be.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I know there's probably
Pay them enough. We could use-
less than 2 handfuls that use the system that we do. And everyone else has went to like Tyler and the other.
Right.
And they are expensive,
We
and
understand.
we cannot afford it.
We
Don't
I
say
mean,
that till we
it just
understand
is
what it
really, huge.
There may be ways to transition into it that we can
So-
afford.
If I can, let me say I'm gonna work with you, and we hear what you're saying, and I think we'd like to look into it and see if we can come up with something that's gonna help the process in the future. Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the wonderful job.
Yep, great job. Appreciate it. Thank you. Easy for us to sit here and say, don't get frustrated, but don't get frustrated.
It was long.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Anything else, gentlemen, under staff reports?
Did I
Yeah, we're running very late. We'll move on. Any unfinished business? Okay, we'll move to new business. If it's an action item, we'll ask for public comment as well. Approval of the weed management plan, the implementation plan, and the bylaws. I've worked with the weed board. We've gone through these 3 documents, forwarded them to you so you could have a chance to review those. The board is obviously satisfied with those documents. That's why they sent them to us. So I would move to approve those 3 documents. If nothing else, we can get to the discussion point. Been moved and seconded to adopt the weed management plan, implementation plan, and bylaws. Discussion?
The only thing I was gonna ask, Tom, these are they a lot different? Did they have
No.
a bunch of changes? I didn't think.
No. Most of it was formatting. We updated the list at the end of those documents, the A, B, and C list for the weed. These documents by statutory requirement are to be reviewed every 5 years.
That's what I thought.
So they were last done in 2013. So it's more of a housekeeping detail. I didn't see anything in there that I thought was really.
And the dollar figures and all that jazz.
Yeah, it's been in that document for the last 5 years that they could help private landowners up to or they could apply for help for up to $1,000. We had changed it to 500, then they changed it back to 1,000. So certainly would answer any other questions if I can that you have, but I just didn't.
But you went through it with them, so.
Yeah, it's pretty much standard business.
Good.
I don't know if that's appropriate to even say that, but I didn't see anything that would cause for any alarm, so.
I read them. Honestly, some of it I didn't understand, to be truthful with you,
Okay.
but, I mean, I didn't see any issues with me.
Okay, if there's any questions I can try to answer, I'll be glad to do that, but, if you have none.
How's the partnership going with Warfield?
Well, good, yeah, Warfield County, Charles Bryan is our weed manager, and
I was impressed with him.
yeah, I think he's doing a good job. Obviously not doing much. He's getting ready to write these grants for 2019, and so I think that's going to work out well. Yeah, further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to public comment. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. They will file those with Roger Squire. He'll keep those on file.
It says prepared by a couple of these. Is that necessary?
Pardon me? Prepared by this board.
That's the board.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
at their next meeting, we'll go through and sign.
All right, yeah, that one makes more sense because it's up there. I thought I was waiting for somebody.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Ordinance for penalties for defacing or damaging county property. Mr. Smith?
I think procedurally, the way we need to approach this is, first of all, for you to decide whether or not this is something you want to approve, if you want to make any changes or amendments. If you're prepared to go forward with it, then I would read it as ordinance number 18-01, with the understanding we had the final reading on December 31 at that meeting. But if there are any questions or discussion about this, that needs to happen first.
Looked pretty good, and did you pick it up off you had some template too?
Most of this was my own.
Was
I
it?
really didn't have any
You got-
particular.
you
Some
got
of the
a template in
definitions,
mind.
well, some of the definitions I referred to definitions that are already appear in statutes for things, so I lifted those out of legal definitions that already exist, but the rest was my own.
Well, that looked pretty good.
Is there any concern on this as a legal document that Kelly's attestation the first time is at the top of the second page, should those all be on the same page, does it matter?
It doesn't, but we can certainly
Scroll them down.
rearrange it somehow to get, where all the
Right.
signatures are on the same page.
I don't know, I'm just asking, if it doesn't matter, we can leave it, I don't.
It probably doesn't, but
Okay.
it might look better to have, and that would leave a blank
Right.
space, and what I generally do
Right.
is just type in
Intentionally.
intentionally
Yeah.
left blank, so there's no question about that.
Mhm.
So we can certainly do that.
I'm in favor of moving forward with this. I think, Kit came to us and
Yeah, he needs
it was a
it.
reasonable request.
And what I would say is that this, what he's asking for here is something, there are state statutes that would apply to this where the district attorney could prosecute for this. The problem is I don't think the district attorney is gonna be terribly interested in prosecuting
Right.
these and would plea bargain them out or just dismiss them. If we have an ordinance, we have more authority and more power over the DA, because initially the district attorney is one who should prosecute these. If the district attorney still doesn't want to, which would certainly affect your consideration about the DA budget, but you could also authorize me as the county attorney to go ahead and prosecute an ordinance violation. So we could go forward with it, and this does bring money into the county. Through the fines would be split up between half to the county and half to the political subdivision that's
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the
affected.
fines, Clint, are these typical, or
These are.
is this enough to make a difference to somebody not to, if it's published in the paper, that if a kid's out there and he thinks he gets a spray can, he starts fooling around, is it gonna deter him?
I don't know if the fine would deter anybody. I mean, they don't think they're gonna get caught, they just don't think ahead of time what they. But the fines are in line with the fines we have in our off-highway vehicle ordinance, our open burning ordinance, the fines are similar.
And is it a misdemeanor?
It's a class 2 petty offense is how it's classified. There's no jail sentence involved with this, so that's why we can do it by ordinance. If there's a jail sentence, we can impose jail sentences for certain things, but it's a lot more complicated, so we do it this way.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that I'm assuming there will be some signage born out of this, and hopefully that signage posted properly will.
And that's
do
the
as much
idea.
to-
And a lot of the things, the property, even though we list all the political subdivisions in here, I don't know that the library district has any skin in this game particularly, but especially for the fire protection district, having the cisterns that they wanna have stationed around the county, vandalism, it could be a problem, and those will be fenced or enclosed somehow, and there will be signage, that's a requirement.
Yeah, after I really got to thinking about this, even probably more critical would be our road and bridge equipment sitting around the county. We may not have signs on those, but.
Right, then. And the signage is really only required for the provision about essentially trespassing, section 2 of part 2. That requires the signage being put, you don't have to have signs on the rest of it.
Right.
So anything that's done to any road and bridge equipment that's.
We can still pursue, even though it didn't have a sign on it.
You could even the library, if somebody's carving his initials in the table.
Could do that.
That would be a good thing.
So, do we need to move to adopt this and then go to first reading?
I would, the recommendation would be if this meets with your approval, you make a motion to go forward with the first reading on this, and then I would read it, and then we'd have it published in the next, the edition of the Sentinel will come out next Friday, and then it'll be on for final reading and adoption on December 31.
And the entire document needs to be read?
It does just this first time, and the second time, it doesn't have to be read, just reference to title.
Okay. Group's pleasure?
I move we adopt ordinance number 1801.
I'll second the motion. Been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 18-01 and have first reading. I beg your pardons, I don't know if this is a debatable motion or not. I'll go ahead and ask for discussion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor? Public comment? Sorry. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Council?
Okay, I'll read proposed ordinance number 18-01. An ordinance of Custer County, a political subdivision of the state of Colorado, making it unlawful to tamper with, deface, or otherwise damage property belonging to the county of Custer or to other governmental entities also designated as political subdivisions of the state of Colorado, and providing penalties for such unlawful conduct. Be it ordained by the Board of County Commissioners of Custer County, a political subdivision of the state of Colorado, that whereas Section 30-11-101, subparagraph 2 CRS gives the Board of County Commissioners the authority to adopt and enforce ordinances regarding health, safety, and welfare issues, and to provide penalties for the violation of same. And whereas counties, municipalities, and special districts are classified as political subdivisions pursuant to the laws of the state of Colorado. Custer County is a political subdivision. The towns of Silver Cliff and West Cliff are political subdivisions. And the Custer County School District, the Wet Mountain Fire Protection District, the West Custer County Library District, the West Custer County Hospital District, and the Round Mountain Water and Sanitation District are all political subdivisions of the state of Colorado. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners for Custer County has determined that the protection of property belonging to all political subdivisions, whether located in the incorporated areas of the above named towns or within the unincorporated areas of the county, is a matter of concern to the citizens of the county whose taxes pay for said property, and that a county ordinance should be adopted making it unlawful to cause harm to such property or to trespass upon the premises where such property may be located, and to provide penalties for such unlawful behavior. Now therefore, the Board of County Commissioners declares as follows. This ordinance number 18-01 shall be known and may be cited as the Tampering with Public Property Ordinance. Part 1, definitions. For purpose of this ordinance number 18-01, the following definitions shall apply. Public property means anything of value owned by a political subdivision of Custer County which is located within the boundaries of said county and includes things of value located within the incorporated limits of the towns of Silver Cliff and West Cliff. Tamper means to interfere with something improperly, to meddle with it, or to make unwarranted and/or unauthorized alterations in its condition. Damage means to cause physical harm to something in such a way as to impair its value, usefulness, or normal function. Deface means to alter the appearance of something by removing, distorting, marring, adding to, or covering all or part of a thing. Part 2, unlawful acts. Section 1. It shall be unlawful for any person to tamper with, deface, or otherwise damage public property physically located within the county of Custer and belonging to a political subdivision of the state of Colorado. Section 2. If public property is defined in this ordinance 18-01 is located on premises that are fenced or are otherwise enclosed in a manner designed to discourage unauthorized persons to enter onto said premises, and if signage is conspicuously posted on said premises making specific reference to this ordinance 18-01 and stating that entry thereon is prohibited, then it shall be unlawful for a person to enter onto said premises without proper authorization from the political subdivision that owns the public property located thereon. Part 3, penalties. Section 1. Any person who commits a violation of Part 2, Section 1 of this ordinance commits a Class 2 petty offense under Section 30-15-402, subparagraph 1, CRS, and upon conviction thereof shall be punished by a fine as follows. Subparagraph A, $200 if the dollar amount of the damage is less than $500. Subparagraph B, $500 if the dollar amount of the damage is $500 or more, but less than $2,000. Subparagraph C, $1,000 if the dollar amount of the damage is $2,000 or more. Subparagraph D, in addition to the imposition of a fine, the convicted person shall be ordered to pay restitution to the political subdivision. Section 2, any person who commits a violation of Part 2, Section 2 of this ordinance 18-01 commits a Class 2 petty offense under Section 30-15-402, subparagraph 1 CRS, and upon conviction thereof shall be punished by a fine of $250. Section 3, the penalty assessment procedure set forth in Section 16-2-201 CRS shall be followed by law enforcement officers charged with the enforcement of this ordinance. Section 4, all fines assessed for violations of this ordinance shall be paid to the treasurer of Custer County. All revenues generated through the payment of such fines shall be paid into the general fund and shall be allocated as follows: 50% to the political subdivision whose property was damaged or was subject to an unlawful entry, and 50% to the Custer County General Fund. Section 5, a person convicted of a violation of Section 1 or Section 2 of Part 1 of this ordinance shall be subject to a surcharge of $10 pursuant to Section 30-15-402, subparagraph 1 CRS. Part 8, effective date. This ordinance shall be effective immediately following adoption on second reading and shall apply to all violations occurring or committed on or after said date. Introduced, read, and adopted on first reading on the 5th day of December 2018 and ordered published in the Sangre de Cristo Sentinel. The Board of County Commissioners for Custer County, State of Colorado, signature lines for Tommy G. Flower, Chairman, William R. Kanda, Vice Chairman, J.D. Prince, Commissioner, with the seal for Kelly Camper to attest, or attestation by Kelly Camper as the county clerk and recorder. And then it goes on to say, and this would be for the next time around, adopted on second and final reading on the 31st day of December 2018, and ordered published by reference to title only in the Sangre de Cristo Sentinel, and signature lines.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
So Brenda, can you change those numbers then and put the dates in there?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, first reading has occurred.
So when's the second reading?
It'll be December
31st?
We'll add that to the agenda, Miss Brenda. We have it.
I guess now that it's been read, if there's any additional public comments or questions,
I just have a question, because it's basically Silver Cliff and West Cliff proper. What about San Isabel and Wetmore?
it's all the unincorporated areas
Okay.
of the county.
Okay.
The two towns are political subdivisions,
Okay.
everything else
Get it.
is part of the county.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. We'll move on then to the weed grant application. We have a copy of that, I believe.
Yes, we do.
gentlemen. I double checked the email I received from Charles Bryant. He indicated that in this particular grant, he did not choose to pursue private land owner funding, so the $14,000 is broken out as in the herbicide 2,000, mapping 1,500, equipment 3,500, contract labor, which is huge, 6,000, because we had budgeted for that, so that will help offset that, and public outreach and education, $1,000, for a total of $14,000. This is from the state noxious weed fund grant. No matching portion.
I move we that we sign the pre-grant application form,
Okay.
to authorize the committee to get the grant, apply for the grant.
No second.
Been moved and seconded to sign the, pre-grant application form for the Colorado Noxious Weed Program. Discussion?
Question, the other grants titled the same too, right? We got two?
No, that's probably a duplicate, one of those
This
probably
one
mine.
has a
Is
difference.
this a grant that would be administered through our,
Yeah, I don't know. Pardon me, sir?
would this grant be administered through our treasurer?
No, I would guess, well, I can't answer that for sure.
Through our what?
Go through our treasurer,
I would say this will go through working the weed manager.
that's what I'm thinking, based on the department that he's, Custer works in the weed department.
I just didn't know if we were gonna get revenues and send it to work or not.
I'm guessing, and I can certainly follow up, that this would go,
No problem either way,
Right.
I'm just curious how that works.
Yeah, I never thought about asking
That's
him
a good
that,
question.
but I'm assuming as a manager, he'd probably go to his account. We can hold off if you want me to find out.
I don't think it matters either way.
I'll find out and report back for sure. Okay. Okay, further discussion?
Make sure he gets it, I guess. That's a good question.
Yeah. He'll report back to the weed board. Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Let's see. Okay.
So who signs here, Tom? So
Um,
this is a submission,
that will
that would
be
be
him, Charles Bryant, been the county administrator, I know his name, can't think of it.
down there.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, I'll give this back to Miss Brenda and we'll move forward with that, thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, I think this is, I don't know what this was.
Yeah, I don't even know where it came from, so
Okay, I guess that wraps us up for the day. Oh,
What
no,
happened
wait
here?
a minute.
we got-
Legal publication on some.
Oh, yeah, I was kind of teasing Angie back there, I was wanting to jump and say, okay, we're done after she said it.
After the legal publication.
Yeah,
then we're
and
done.
then we're done, okay.
Sorry, not up yet.
Right. Next item of business, legal publication bid request for 2019. Ms. Brenda sent that out, included us as well on that.
What date did you put a deadline for?
21st.
Okay.
So we
Sealed
will.
bids on the 31st.
They'll be open on the 31st.
Yep.
So, were you expecting anything other than informational item here, Ms. Brenda?
Just you're okay to go ahead and send these letters.
Okay, oh, you haven't sent those yet?
No.
Okay.
They're due by the
By
21st.
consensus, I think I'm fine
Yeah, I
with
think
it, it's the same as last year's letter, wasn't it? I thought,
Yeah, I just changed the dates.
Change the date, yeah, I think it's fine.
I suppose maybe since it will end up being a legal matter, I would move that we approve the letters going out requesting legal publication bids. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Yeah, been moved and seconded to authorize
Sorry.
Right.
No, I didn't told him.
notice of legal publication, discussion, public comment. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
You have the letters.
Yes, Bill had, or I got them, sorry.
Two of them here.
Yeah, we'll
I-
sign.
Oh, you got the actual.
I don't know if you have to sign them, but
Why not?
I I don't have signature lines.
Yeah, I don't think we do. We can if you want, but
You did the motions,
Yeah.
and that's what it says in here that.
right.
Just a notice of it.
Does that have to be a county publication?
If there's a newspaper of record in the county, yes, it has to be, otherwise you can go outside the
Wow,
county.
okay. That was exactly where I was headed. Okay, we'll move on. Tourism, budget, etc.
Cedric, you got it.
Good morning and welcome. Thank you for your
thank you.
patience. I
Oh,
know
no,
It's about time you got here.
I know. To be honest, she
We've been
offered.
waiting for hours.
She offered to put me on earlier, and I says no. I can be at the end because I like to hear what's going on.
Good.
And everything. So, okay. First of all, I just want to give you some updates regarding the tourism board. They're already wanting to revamp the budget, and I feel now's not the time. I just want to know what the process is. Seems like we need to, my understanding, be more into the year before we come before an amended
It's
budget.
revamped.
Well, they're amending it. I did not email this to you because we haven't worked at it on a meeting. It was just sent. And so we haven't even gone through it as far as the working board itself.
Can you just share what the general issues were, or you want to wait until they're done with it?
But we'll wait. I just want to make you be aware because they're going to, I think, they are going to want to move on it, and I feel we need to wait and see where we're at. We got a little over $1,000 more than what was anticipated for November. We got the 19,000, and Charlie had estimated 18,000. We haven't gotten December's monies in yet from the treasurer, so we don't know what that is. But you know, he's done a good job with everything. But my concern is what they want to extend it to is more than what it should be. I just want to know what the procedure is, so that way when they when we have our meeting next
I think
Tuesday.
the procedure would be that your board would make the recommendation
Right.
on what you all decide as a board.
Right.
And then bring it to the commissioners for approval
Okay.
or disapproval.
And my basic recommendation is going to ask them to wait until in January when you might have some new people
I
involved.
think that's in general.
That's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, because it seems like the new
And
people.
the you guys is the majority of the board, however you guys want to do it.
Exactly.
So how
Now, do
you
you
guys-
think the budget's going to be more than what we've already approved
Oh,
for
yes.
amended budget?
Oh yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh yes. Definitely yes.
Can't spend what you don't have, what does that mean?
Well, exactly.
Well-
So I just wanted to make you aware.
Okay, but it's an internal thing.
Yeah.
Make your recommendation and come to us.
And I just,
So,
it's like I need to be able to say, okay, this is, our procedure.
the majority of your committee, of your
Uh-huh.
board votes, whatever the majority
Right.
says, then you bring to us.
I foresee that we might need to have a workshop to kind of revamp what was done, but anyhow, that's just the way it is. So I just wanted to know that, since all the turmoil, and when I was the only one on board, I've done what I can to kind of keep the tourism board going and the next steps, and part of that was getting bylaws, trying to get new people on the board. Part of that in October, I thought it was September, but in October, started working with the grant application, the mini grant process, when really I was the only one, but I was familiar with it for our mini grant thing that was applied for in November. So, I kept those things going. I just wanted to let a couple of things that came up in regards to the lodging tax and what we can do as far as the tourism board. We have a letter that we can say that we sent, and I've done this in the past. The new board doesn't know this yet because we haven't got there yet. We just, new board, we worked on budget, and some of them are off doing their own thing, and we haven't sat down to say, this is what we need to be doing and going forward, which hopefully would be in January. Because everybody's new, maybe 2 months on or 3, and budget was our main priority. But what we do is if we know, like for instance, a lady that I knew had their home as far as an Airbnb. And she was going to be renting out. So I said, you know, you need to be doing the lodging tax. Well, I guess as Airbnb, it's automatically taken out, but she didn't know at the time. So I sent her a letter advising her what she needed to be doing. Plus, I had downloaded the forms from the state of Colorado, in which I emailed over to her. So that way she knew full well, and you know, and I documented that. Kelly can't say, you know, who's paying her now. But before you were on doing it, we had a way to kind of find out, like, if we knew, like, say, Antlers was paying and Westcliff Inn was paying, and we listed a third party, we could give you a note listing the 3 people, and we could say, are these 3 people all paying? And you could say no. Well, we would automatically know the no was that new person. But you're not telling it, you're not saying who's not.
Yeah, and I can't.
No, you can't. But if we, several years ago, we could take a list in, like said we had a list of 5 and we knew 4 was paying and 1 wasn't. You could say all are paying except for 1. And you can't tell us what that 1 is. But we would know because we knew the other 4 were paying.
I don't even think, I gotta
See, I
check into
don't-
that, because I don't even think I can say all of these are paying except
Okay.
1.
I thought it was not to share any information pertaining to
Yeah.
that.
Because when we first did it, we were able to do that.
Yeah.
So I just need to get that clarification.
I think you can give me a list and I can look at them,
Mhm.
and if I see on there's 1 not paying, that's when I notify Department of Revenue,
Don't
then they let
notify
them
them.
know. Right,
Okay.
right.
We may have to research
Well,
that a little
see,
bit
and
too,
that's
but-
where what we did is when we found out wasn't, we had kind of a standard letter that went out with a copy, which we just did earlier this year. There was some stuff where the state of Colorado came out. We had a kind of a mini symposium. I believe that was in March or April at the library, and we invited the lodging. Kelly was there and the state, and the forms were there. You know, Brent and Greg didn't realize that that's part of what had been done, so I passed that on. So we let him know, but we, when we first formed, we let everybody know. So just even sending a general letter to advise them.
So, I'm a little confused because I think we're going off on tangents,
Right.
but maybe, and I'm not telling you what to do, but maybe the tourism board ought to put something in the paper stating that if you have any room in your home that you are renting out to any person, you must comply with the law.
Right.
And maybe you could give a notification of that. You being the police department, whether they do or do not, I don't think that's really your,
I don't think it is
I don't
either.
think that's your position. I think it is appropriate for you to tell Kelly to tell the Treasury Department or Revenue, whoever it is, and let them handle it. But I don't feel I have any problem whatsoever if the tourism board says if you in any form or fashion rent out any space to third parties in your home, you must comply with the law. And
Just a
here's what you
notice.
find,
It says this
some
is
kind
the
of
law.
notice. I mean, I would favor that.
Yeah.
But I
And go
don't
see
think you're the
Kelly for
police
a
here.
form or whatever.
Well, when we first started, because you know I was involved in kind of out, and Cindy, Christy, Beltry, and I all worked together, and we had a form letter to educate people about the tourism board, and it was basically just letting people know you probably don't know about this, and it wasn't
And
saying.
that's why I was suggesting something
okay.
in the paper,
Yeah.
because I agree, Kelly made the comment earlier, and I agree with her completely. Some people just may not know that they're supposed to do this, and
That's fair.
I give people a lot of credit, and I think they do, oh, I didn't realize I had to do that, let me start doing that. So, it's an education.
What is confusing, and it's not her job or ours.
No.
Somebody has to. How do you follow up and know that somebody's actually did? You know, the state
That-
sends out the notice, then how do we
I
know
said
they're
that
paying?
earlier,
I know,
too.
it's the
I
same
mean,
issue. How do
it's
you
very
enforce the
sloppy.
silly thing?
It's very sloppy, so as we find them, we can do something, but if we give notice, at least to put on notice that you are responsible for following certain procedures if you plan on entering into this form of
I
business.
wonder if the notice also could say something like, how do you, she makes the notice to the state, says this address is now, needs to have notice it has a bed and breakfast, whatever it is. And once it's complied with, how do you know?
Well,
How do
I'm
we
thinking-
get,
I'm thinking
how do
if
we
you put
get it
something
up
in
on
the paper
them
saying-
to ensure that they
Well,
check
that-
with Kelly that it went through the system?
And now we don't know.
No, we don't, but what we could is say in the notices, you know, pick up the form, then send, Kelly will deal with it.
If you have
We could check
questions,
with the
please
clerk
contact
at
the
some
tourism
point.
board or the clerk, however you want.
Wouldn't be the tourism board, cause they can't know that they didn't pay it, but she could, it's a.
Yeah, but they can tell them what the
Yeah,
procedure is.
yeah.
Well, it's just a simple basic letter. You know, if you think you comply, here's the form, and just help them out. I just downloaded the PDF and gave the guidelines, because if they stay for a certain period of time, it's longer, then they don't charge the tax.
See, they're gonna have to know they're taking they need to charge the tax and the form to process to do that, so then you could check back with the clerk to make sure you got the right process to, I mean, that's a legal thing to do,
Yeah,
it seems to me.
it was just
Make sure
something
that they put it on them to follow up, it's on their, as a citizen, the responsibility to follow up with you.
And I do know in checking with the state in the past, we're not a big area concern for them to bring people out. You know, we just, you know, unless they happen to maybe want to do a combination of Orfino County, us, you know, Los Angeles maybe, and send somebody out that way, but we are getting a lot more tax than what we used to. Also lodging tax when it comes to ups and downs. It's not all based on tourism. Part of it depends on if they're doing highway construction, you got people staying in hotels and motels. If there's a fire, you got pros and cons. Sometimes tourism isn't coming, but the workers are, or people for
But
work.
I think the majority of VRBOs and bed and breakfast and all that is a tourism issue.
Right.
They're coming for that. I grant you that, you know, I had a wedding. A lot of people filled up all the VRBOs. It was not a tourism thing. However, I feel it would be an appropriate place for you, your board, of course, to make that notification to the public, telling them that there are requirements for this other than you just in business, that you must meet certain legal requirements.
And one thing I have to disagree with you on the wedding, as far as it not being a tourism thing, as a business owner, which I get a whole different aspect.
And
Yeah, I just wanna say.
I was just giving out
That's
an
what-
example.
Tourist activity.
Some people
Yeah.
may come in and.
They come in,
That's
shops.
not the point, but
Yeah.
I think the majority is the tourism industry, and for your board to put out a notice in the publication, newspaper, you know, if you are doing this, please make sure that you're complying with the law, I
Right.
think is an appropriate thing to do.
Right.
So let me ask Kelly a question. So, once you know, let's say, however you find out somebody hadn't been paying it, and you notify the state, you have a list of your own that says, I could be looking for these guys to be paying the tax. Did you get a way of seeing that they did pay the tax? Okay, so then that would be up on you, then the only enforcement we have would be, she could just resend the notice back to the state, right, that they haven't complied this year. Right? That would-
Yeah.
And then you probably should do that, because to make sure they keep sending the enforcement letters to the people.
Yeah. And I asked them that one time, you know, how do you know that, I mean, do you follow up? And they said, really, we just send them out one notice.
Right,
and-
so you could
But maybe
force them to
if,
push another one.
yeah, maybe if I kept bugging them.
I mean, what would happen if nobody did? I mean, you just let it ride, that person escapes for the rest of his life.
Yeah. And the other thing, and you and I might have talked about that after that meeting at the library, is, cause I think that they talked about it at a conference or something, about how to control, how to know that everybody, that there are,
Complying.
yeah, and that, do you do that through zoning or something so that everybody is on the same page? They know.
If you could, I mean,
I don't.
that seems like a logical thing.
Yeah.
You have a lot of your retirees that are here part-time and they're VBO, but now with the
There's a
state
lot of
stating that if you're under VBO, that all that stuff is, or the Airbnbs, is automatically taken out. So, and it didn't used to be like that, so that's really a good thing.
Right, that's the comment I had was, one of the comments was, if it's a registered Airbnb, home away, VRBO, those supposedly, if it's registered in one of those businesses, then they automatically register to pay that tax.
I think Airbnb is the only one that automatically takes that out.
Home away and VRBO
I don't think they
doesn't.
do.
Yeah, I think the VBO is borderline, but when you get online and you look for that, a lot of the VBOs are also Airbnb.
Right,
They have them on.
duplicate.
They're duplicate.
I just looked, Airbnb or home away and VRBO, Custer County, Colorado, there happen to be 40 of each listed. I would think it would be wise for the tourism board to reach out to those people and ask them of that same letter, are you paying the 2% lodging tax?
That's
Are you
basically
remitting that?
what I was saying. Up till about a year ago, they had the addresses of everybody. So, oh, I can go on and I can check that out, because some of them I know. I look at the home and I go, oh, that's so-and-so's place. But now it's all Google and they don't give an address at all. Because at least I had a way to go on and contact the people. So, so that's some work.
Yeah, but we know, if they're in business, you ought to be able to find their address, because they don't get anybody to come if they don't want.
No, you have to actually go in and apply that you are going to be.
Make a reservation.
Make a reservation.
Exactly. That's how, but it did used to be, it had actually an address. And I thought, okay, they got smart there.
My thinking was it's incumbent upon who to do this. In my mind, it would be tourism board because it's a fulfilling deal. That's where the money comes back to. So I don't know that the commissioners can mandate that the tourism board do that. But I think it would be something we could sure.
Well, that was in part of our thing that we did. It's just, it's just, I think every other year or once a year, it's just a nice, simple letter. Hey, it's just more.
Okay, so if we leave it in your hands, you can go ahead and do that.
But I think
All right, well, let's move.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. It is incumbent upon them, and we can ask them if they're doing their job,
Right.
working for us.
So then Plan B. We have, I have a letter, which I don't have with me because I carried it with me last week trying to see you, and I don't know what I did with it. But it states that my term is for 3 years. And it's signed by all 3 of you guys. So that was Friday's the last I had at my hand when I went to see you, and I don't know what vehicle's in. A lot's happened.
So what do you ask?
Well, we can find it if it's.
Give me an overview of what the issue is.
What do you ask?
Okay, so basically what we have is term limits coming up. Which all of a sudden we have 3, which we've never had 3 before, and we shouldn't. Openings, we should have 2 at a time. And my question is mine for the 3 or is it for a lesser term? According to the bylaws, November 1st, I should have sent out a public request for letters of interest. I had stuck in my set December 1st because, I wasn't up on the bylaws with everything else going. November the 8th, I saw it, I'm going, oh dang. And I got it into the paper, got it to be on Facebook so that the letter went out there. And it had to be in by December 1st. So, the letters of interest plus a resume along with it. The only letters that have come in is basically a letter from Deb saying she's interested. There was no resume. We did not receive anything from Peggy, even though she was requested by 2 people. We still have a Jennifer that's out there that's interested. I've talked with her 3 times. So, and we'll be coming back
How
forward.
does your board wanna handle this?
Well, first of all, what it is at our November meeting, after you left, I'd already been pre-warned by one of our board members that a couple of the ladies were basically after me, and they didn't like my thing in regards to the commissioners. Well, I've had to come before you guys a lot. You tell me what I should be doing, but that doesn't mean I might agree with you. So, you know, we work together, and so they don't like that relationship there. So at the meeting, they approved Deb's letter, even though the timeline wasn't even here.
Hang on a second. When you say it was approved by a majority vote of the members of your board?
For her letter of interest, which the time wasn't
Okay,
here.
I'm having a little angst here.
Mhm.
I don't want to micromanage your board, and I don't think the other commissioners want to either, although I don't want to speak for them. These sound like issues that need to come before your board, and a majority vote will rule as to how you're going to handle these issues. And I'm sorry to say that, but I mean, we don't micromanage the boards.
Right now, what we have is a hornet's nest.
We have what?
I call it a hornet's nest.
Okay, well, then
So-
we've been in this position with this tourism board for a very long time.
A couple of years, yes.
No, for a very long time. We made a major change a while back, which was unpopular, but we felt that was gonna help get the problems with this tourism board under control so it can function like every other board or committee that we have in the county in terms of your self-regulating. You regulate by majority vote. If there is issues that the board needs the commissioners involved in, then obviously it needs to come before us. A change in your budget would obviously come before us.
Right.
But the management of your board, I think that's your board's decision.
And Angie, I just pulled up Peggy Collins's email on October the 7th to you with her resume.
Oh, yes, it finally came in.
No, it finally is on October the 7th. That's,
September is when she first said it.
doesn't matter. You put a notice in the paper looking for it, you've got a resume.
I'm having a real problem here.
Okay.
So,
No.
you guys just gotta get your act
Okay,
together.
no, okay, what our act together, and we'll do that. I will say that December 1st was not even here in November when they were making votes, the cart before the horse. So,
So if I could just continue, Andy, I've publicly said at least twice how much I appreciate what you have done to keep the tourism board in operation when there were no other members.
right,
It would have been very easy for you to say, I'm out of here. You didn't do that. I'll commend you a third time today publicly going, thank you for doing that. But now, hang on a second, but now that you have a functioning board, the board needs to make decisions. And if they decide that there's gonna be changes that don't meet Angie's agenda, that's their right in a majority vote. I mean, that's how boards operate.
I think my key is, do we have a functioning board? And that's my thing, so we will take that up in our next meeting,
So
because
who do
it
you
is
think's on the
not,
board now?
pardon me?
You have 4 or 5, how many people?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. Peggy didn't send her stuff in.
She's got it there, cut it out.
Is she a board member or
She's a
not?
board member or
Till
not?
the end.
That's right.
Right.
She is a board member.
She's a board
Okay,
member.
she's a board
Not
member.
a
I
Alright.
remember voting her on
I
the
thought
board.
we
Her
did.
term is up in January, she needs
Right.
to
She can
resubmit.
So
resubmit.
there's no,
And she didn't as of December 1st.
Talk with her.
You know, I have.
I know she's in Singapore right now.
so the tourism board, according to our records, not my records, it's our records, Peggy, yourself, Debbie Adams, and Renee Smith is coming up.
Is Charlie?
Yeah.
No, Charlie
No,
appointed
Charlie.
to 20.
Marlis
right.
is, she is I'd love to clone her. I have basically kind of shown her where things are.
Marlis is 21.
Right, and stuff.
So
She's not up for discussion at
No,
this
she's
point.
we
not.
would
No, I'm
expect
just
to
saying,
see,
I'm a positive thing.
4 terms expire
Right.
in December of 18.
Mm-hmm.
And we would expect that that board has been qualified, they had resumes in, and so when they come up, it's up to them to say, okay, I'm gonna go put my name back into the hat, I wanna be on board, I don't know.
But what Angie's saying, and I agree with her,
Yeah.
they need to follow
They
that
need to
procedure.
file, they need to file.
And if they haven't, we
Right.
follow up
Right.
with them and say, are you or are you not? If you do not, you are not qualified to
That's right.
serve in the future. And I concur with you, that procedure needs to be followed. You don't set the procedure and ignore it for some
Right.
people you like better than
So,
others.
so
That's
go out
wrong.
and get them on the stick.
Well, but I also have some new people, Carla is one, that,
Get them all on the stick.
well, yeah. So
Well,
it
they
took
may
a
not
year.
want them on the
But
board.
they're not.
But, took a year and a half for Marlis, and, she has, we've got a brand new possible business owner. I think Jay knows that I'm meeting her later, and I think she's gonna apply for it, which means it'll have to be, by the end of December when the board puts out a call for letters of interest for the different boards and stuff, so.
Take care of business.
We took that.
Okay, no, that's fine, I just,
We support the tourism board immensely.
Right.
We don't support dysfunctionality. Procedure is important, that's why we establish it. If someone's not following the procedure, they need to be kind of pushed and reminded, follow procedure. If they just flat refuse and they don't apply,
They don't wanna be
they're
on
not
the
gonna be on
They
the
don't
board,
have
that's
to
what will be
be.
the assumption. So, I'm a little frustrated, I don't know where we're going right now.
no, that's fine, you've answered my questions, I didn't want to go further.
Good.
I just want to advise, the main thing was budget. We have the one, item, and, that's fine, because I don't want to be a minor or whatever, but,
Negative Nelly, you don't wanna be, I get it.
yes, but it is a hornet's nest, and, at least I knew where I was with the other. The common denominator is, I've asked questions, and it doesn't sit with the other board. We're now having to pay for things if they would have at least listened on revamping our website. And now, so, we're fine, I can deal
Well,
with
I
it.
think you have to let the process work itself out. I think
Correct.
that's what Commissioner Prince is saying. We will deal with whatever, I agree. We will not deal with dysfunctionality to our ability. So if there are issues and they come before this board, we'll deal with them. If we
Right.
feel there are issues, we may bring them before this
Right.
board.
Right.
I think,
I'm just trying to diplomatically say,
okay, well, we're aware that there may be an amended budget coming before the board.
right,
And we'll proceed with that. On another note, I would ask the tourism board to reach out to VistaWorks.
oh,
We're having issues with them and dealing with the funds that we are sending to them.
Correct.
So,
and thank you because I did have that down on my list, because I also spent a good part of the day tracking down, because I remembered signing the vouchers for that. And came in, Brenda had already also done the same thing. So our figures were the same. There's times we've had to do replacement checks
Well,
for them. It's just frustrating.
that's
Plus,
not acceptable.
we also have an invoice that's in from them. I told Brenda we're holding on because I want clarification. We're already paying them X amount here.
I appreciate you doing that. I appreciate you
And
just
I don't
pay.
understand why this additional when this is being happening. When I question what Amy's doing,
Good management,
You know.
that's exactly what
So-
you do.
Well, and I would ask you to-
well, it's not setting well with the board,
I
so
would ask you to
that's
visit
just what it
with
is.
VistaWorks and say, the Board of County Commissioners will get tired of reissuing these checks. If you can't handle your finances, we will find another company. VistaWorks is sure as hell not the only company in Colorado that deals with this. I have talked to them, I will talk to them again.
Where are they?
But, being
Buena
it
Vista.
needs to start with the tourism board.
Right, and I did send a letter, Brenda sent one out to, Charlie knows, he's fully aware. He didn't know the past history in regards to them as far as their checks, not cashing.
And that's the one thing, not the one thing, the many things you bring. that is one of the important things that you bring to the neophytes, and I don't mean that in a negative term.
No.
The new people coming on who
Right.
don't have a history, you can give them that history, which is so important. But then when ultimately they understand what the procedure is and what's going on and what the issues are, and they vote, that's the way it's gonna have to be.
You know, that I am totally fine on. It's when they're not new, not even having been to a new board meeting, and all of a sudden they don't know the procedure, and they're making decisions before they fully understand, you know. We went through a grant process, which I was really proud of the results. You were there for at least that part. And, you know, that hopefully all 5 of them will be acknowledged at Tuesday's meeting and receive them all, because that was a lot of hard work working with them, but that's the most we've ever had to go for.
What is your next meeting?
Yeah, just
I was
gonna
gonna
It's
ask you when
Tuesday.
our
next
meeting
meeting.
is.
Tuesday.
If we go back to where we were 8 months ago, I'll guarantee you I'm gonna get on the fight. So Tuesday, the 11th,
Yes, sir, at
At?
9 o'clock.
At when?
9 o'clock.
and where is that?
Here,
So it's still
states in our
being here.
states in our bylaws, this is where it's at.
What day?
11th.
What day?
1/1/11.
December 11th.
Oh, shit. Sorry,
That's
I'm already on
At
it. I
9
heard
o'clock.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. All
and
right.
stuff, so, anyhow, I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank
Um,
you.
Don't give up the fight. I feel your frustration, and me not saying, putting my arm around you, going, Andy, let me coddle you. I just can't do this. What I have to do is let your board function as it's your board. I feel your frustration. I've complimented you multiple times, sticking it out. Work with them and make it a good board.
Well, that's what I'm trying to
9
do.
o'clock.
My frustration is based on what some of your concerns were, of some of them behind the scenes. You've got Greg and Brent working them. And,
Greg and Brent
What?
are out. What do you
oh,
mean?
no, they're not.
What?
You know, no, they're not.
What
Officially,
do you
they
mean
are
they're not?
out.
Yes, they
Doesn't
are.
mean they can't have influence like anybody else.
Well, they are.
But,
I understand
all right.
Charlie is close to both of them.
Thank
Exactly.
you for coming in. I appreciate that.
Thanks,
Angie,
thanks.
I
No,
will
wanna
work
talk
with
to
you and
Donna?
I
I
will
do.
help you.
and I'm
Now.
just
Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not before.
Okay.
Thank you.
staying. And thanks for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for
being
bringing this to
patient.
us.
There are still birds out inside. Just saying.
I'm gonna go after bird group today.
Okay, just saying.
I moved
No,
that
I
we
couldn't get
adjourn.
Oh, sir, I have one other item of business. If
Oh, I'm
you
sorry, I didn't realize that.
Don't mind withdrawing that motion?
I withdraw
Okay.
my motion, I thought we were done.
No.
I didn't hear it, so it didn't matter.
Oh, good. I asked Brenda to contact Donna and have her come over so we can have a conversation with her today
She's here.
about,
She was
yeah, she
here.
was, and she left, about this amended budget coming before us. And how we handle that. I don't know how to handle that.
Tourism board?
Yes.
We don't understand what that means, Tom, because it sounds like to me, you can amend your budget, we gave them a budget to work with, they can fool with that internally. That's what it
But
means,
they
because
can't.
she wasn't clear.
Is she coming
Or
over?
are they trying to come and tell us they
She
need
didn't
more
answer
money?
her phone.
Oh, okay.
She probably,
Maybe she's on her way.
They know better than to come and spend, unless they wanna ask them, or how could they even be thinking about
I'll
that?
tell you where it's coming. They're anticipating greater revenues.
Right.
So they want to adjust their budget to take
Right.
account.
So what? Right?
That's right. So
It
what?
doesn't matter, because they can't spend it if they don't get it, and they can be prepared to go spend it on something if they get it. I mean, that's up to them to work internally, but if they think they gotta come to us because they want more than what they got,
Not gonna happen.
it isn't
Well,
gonna
I don't know.
happen.
That's why I asked Donna to come over so we can have a
See what's
discussion.
going on. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I know, that was,
Any organization can come in and say, we under budgeted, we need more money for something, and we have the right
Right.
to agree
Sure.
or disagree.
yeah. Right. But if it's just amending their budget internally because they don't like what they had proposed, that's up to them to argue about, not.
That's called.
Welcome back.
That was my.
That was easy, I was talking to Ron.
Oh, okay.
There you
You
go.
were here and then I saw that you weren't, and so, Angie informed us that the tourism board may bring a request to amend their budget in the next foreseeable future, here in the next month. So, I asked Brenda to contact you so we could have a conversation with you about, number one, what's that process like?
Those are the supplementals.
Okay?
Just-
And would it be normal to do a supplemental budget in January? Typically, across the board, county business.
Ordinarily, no.
Okay?
Because you've not spent anything or done
Right.
anything.
Started the
yet,
new year off.
And you've
Right.
not gotten in the extra revenues yet.
Okay. This is a little different because this is a lodging tax that supports the tourism board. I think the commissioners, I believe, let me restate that. I believe we should get the year up and running and find out. We don't know what their revenue stream's gonna be. I would expect an amended budget, but certainly not in January or February. I mean, they got $55,000 in their budget. We budgeted that.
But yeah, that
So-
ordinarily you just don't, because you don't know.
Don't know.
If you bought one thing, you might not need the other thing, or, yeah, it just would be.
Now, technically,
Premature.
I do
we don't need
too,
any-
but I wanted to have this conversation today. I don't think this conversation's
Amending
premature.
budget conversation is certainly not premature. I think tourism board absolutely is. We don't have any idea what they were gonna ask,
Right.
what they want, how they wanna do, or what it is. And we would just put on notice that they're talking about changing their budget. That's all we know at this point.
Right.
The conversation about what is the procedure on amended
That's-
budgets, that's a whole different animal.
That's what I'm asking about.
Okay.
So technically, what is the process? They would come, request an amended budget, or present us with an amended budget. We'd vote on that to accept it or reject it, correct?
Correct, because you have to sign the supplemental or the revision for that.
Okay.
That being said, you wouldn't be revising or changing something that was already existing if they hadn't spent it or there was no money, so.
Yeah, they can project and plan and do all that all they want.
So if
It's time
if
to
their
change something,
budget,
they come to us.
Yes.
if their budget, this is what I suspect would happen. But again, this is a little premature, but I wanna think this through, and the only time we can do it is sitting at this table. If their budget is $55,000, which we just approved, and they anticipate a larger revenue stream, I'll make up a number, 65,000. So they want to amend their budget to 65,000 based on projected revenues. Is that reasonable?
Yes, but only if they're expending it. The
Okay.
whole reason for a budget is that you can't spend more than what you
Right.
budgeted. So if in the reality, they were only spending 55,000, but they thought 65, they would bring in the other 10, it would go into their fund balance, they didn't overspend the 55, there's nothing that needs to be changed.
Or if they came on a windfall, all of a sudden there was a jillion people showed up and they got a lot more money in a month, they can spend it.
Yeah, that they would have.
Right now, their only authority to spend is up to $55,000
Right.
bucks.
Correct.
We just give them the authority to go
Now,
beyond.
if they anticipate that windfall, is that enough to amend the budget? We think we're gonna get more money this year.
We don't care about, the revenue. I mean, we have what's anticipated,
Right.
but we could garner 8 times that.
That's
and
what
we're
we
good.
did.
It's the expenditure that
Right.
changes the
Right,
budget.
and we actually
Alright.
did, that's what our
Alright.
budget was
So-
built on, was
right.
anticipation.
So,
Period.
I guess backdoor that, I'm
So it's
assuming
okay.
they're gonna come with increased expenses based on their anticipated increase in revenue.
And they have to show why they think that and all that.
And why, and it's just, I would never do that and probably until toward the end, because that's.
And always
yeah.
increase it.
Yeah, that's
Just let 'em-
when the money has come through,
Right.
that they're, because they might change their mind and not, and why do a supplemental?
But they can plan for it if they
Well,
want
and we
to.
actually
Right.
had part of this discussion during the budget hearings. They came at us with a number that they thought they were gonna generate revenue. We didn't agree with that, so we pared the budget down a little bit.
Well, and who's to say that, because their revenues were higher, but who's to say that everyone who has an Airbnb said this isn't worth it to go through this paperwork, and it goes right back to where it was prior, because the paperwork is the bummer part. Nobody cares that they're having to pay it, they just don't wanna deal with
That's
the
why you need to be
paper.
on top of it
Okay.
month by month, so you can stay
Okay.
within budget, so you don't overspend
Right.
something you haven't got.
Okay. So the process is, they certainly can bring that to us for consideration. And would you feel you need to be involved in that?
Yes.
She would like to know so she can put it in her system by hand.
Yeah, so I can take the time to get all that.
Yeah, I don't,
I'm not gonna amend the budget without our budget officer sitting there going, hang on a second.
Yeah, that's right, she needs to know.
But those are,
right. Cause it's a little different cat to skin with the tourism board versus,
Yeah, cause they have a separate.
number one, we don't
there's
know.
Separate revenue.
We're not
stream.
funding their budget,
Road and
the
bridge.
state is, so.
but you know, there's no use, you guys doing something that need not be changed if it never, if the expenses went over.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, ma'am, that's answers my questions, gentlemen.
I'm good.
Thank you for coming back in, appreciate it. Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Easy peasy.
Pop over there, is Chris gonna come in at 9 o'clock tomorrow?
9 o'clock, oh.
I know. Okay.
You're not gonna run away right away, are you?
No,
Public
I'm
comment.
going next door.
Okay, but you'll be around for
No,
10
thank
minutes.
you.
We're gonna-
Yeah.
Yes.
Other than the birds, I've already said, you know, I mean, I'm reading your little
About
sign.
hearing that.
So I think that's probably all I need, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Today.
I just want to say a special thank you to Donna and Brenda for the extra help that they're doing. I called Donna yesterday, because I didn't have this one. She's inundating. I said, next week's fine. I just went up for my files, you know, and just what they do to help keep your job better too as well. So I just want to say
Well,
thank you.
thank you, appreciate that, certainly. I've gone and asked for a, not an emergency, but certainly out of the ordinary transaction, and Donna dropped what she was doing and made that happen
Yeah.
to the benefit of one of our citizens. Wasn't for me, but, so yeah, we appreciate it. Okay, anything else, public comment? Hearing none, Chair will adjourn the meeting at 12:38.
Good job.